Hi, this is Dale Lear, designer of TRS-80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
This is CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer. It's time to drop your socks, grab your real-time clocks, and let's rock.
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Welcome to CoCoTALK, episode 276. Today we have the giveaway results from Geldot. What was I supposed to say there?
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Hello, everybody.
And welcome to the smoothest start of the show we've ever had.
This is what I get for not writing it all down first ahead of time.
Hey, there was no swearing. There's no
Who
swearing
needs
involved this time.
rehearsals?
This is
There goes Ken's internet.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it's clogged with maple syrup, but that's what you get for not coming to rehearsal.
We had a rehearsal?
And this is not a theme park behind me either, so.
Let's see. Panel introductions. Let's see. That means I need to go over here. Not that one. There we go. I got them in order. All right. So let's see who we got with us today. We start off upper left-hand corner, Patrick Euland.
Howdy, folks.
And next over, we got Ron Delvo.
Yes, we do. We have him. He's right here. Hello.
Okay. And next over, we got Blank Reg.
Howdy.
Also known as Mark Overhoser.
Glad to be here.
Yours truly over here in the other corner. That's where I need to be sitting, is in the corner. Next up, Grant Leedy.
Hello, everybody.
All right. And Jason Reighard.
Hello, and I'm ready to go. I've got my Diet Dr. Pepper and water.
And soon the bathroom.
Okay, and next up is Glenn, whose last name I neither can remember nor spell.
It's Glen Dahlgren.
Dahlgren. Okay.
You can spell it, I'm sure.
Yep, that's what I should have done earlier. Next over, L. Curtis Boyle.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
All right, last row we have Ken Waters.
Hello. My squirrel's gone on strike for that provides the power for my internet. So
Better throw him another nut.
more maple syrup.
Well, we've got enough nuts in the show. That should be easy.
And last on the row is David Ladd.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I hope you're ready for this week's show. I certainly am, and Glenn is smiling, so that means something good is coming our way. Let's take it away.
Can you tone it down, Mr. Ladd?
Would you really want me to tone it down?
That's a very subdued David Ladd by CoCoTALK standards.
That is
We're already on a 3.
Okay.
Moving along.
First up, let's see. Glenn, you got some things to give away, right?
I do. Yeah, last time I was on the show, I promised to, in celebration of the launch of my new book, which I actually can show you now. It's House of Prophecy. This is the proof copy, but the paperback was just published today. So it's actually available on Amazon. I have books speeding to me for author copies that I'm going to be signing and sending out. But the ebook launches tomorrow, and I figured, hey, with the big launch, why not come on the show and do the spin for the awesome raffle? So the raffle is basically anybody who entered has a spot on the big wheel. If you win, I think I'm gonna do it a few times. The first winner will get their choice of a Coco game, a classic new old stock, signed if you want it. Some of these games I did not write, so I don't know if you want my signature on them, but I'm happy to sign anything I send out. And then I'll do it a couple more times, and those people can get audiobooks of my books. So I guess if we're ready, I can just do it. If there's anybody in the audience who wants to join, like, speak up or forever hold your peace, because I'm gonna spin this thing. Is there anybody in chat?
Okay. We'll need a couple of minutes for chat to catch up and then to answer back.
Yeah, they're on a bit of a delay.
I see.
Yeah, you can throw mine and name in there. I've got all your games already, but if you want to throw me in, sure.
And who's speaking?
Curtis Spoiled.
Oh.
If he wins anything, you just ship it to my house, please.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I win one of them, I'll actually donate it to the Glen side for the
it would be
Coco
better.
Fest. Because, like I said, I've already bought them all back in the day. So
I'm really hoping for a game you didn't write, signed by you. That's what I'm shooting for.
you can write produced by Glen.
He was a
Dahlgren.
publisher. Yeah.
I had something to do with everything I sold, so some more than I'm credited for.
So do you have Kevin Holloway in there?
Kevin Holloway? I don't know. I do not see it.
Okay. He says, "I'm in, please."
And if I don't spell it right, it's still okay. You will still win.
Spelling doesn't count.
Yeah. Legally, maybe you don't win. Maybe. Okay. Got it. We good?
No one else seems to have chimed in, so
spin it. Let's
All
go.
right, here it goes.
Spin that wheel, Frank.
I'm a spinning.
I accept the gift already.
I'd like to buy a vowel, please.
Steve Ostrom. That's who wins.
Cool. I don't know if he's in chat or not, but
Doesn't have to be present to win.
No, you don't have to be present to win. As long as I get an email address and everything, then we're all good.
that'd be unfair to our international viewers anyway. So
Yeah, it would be. It would be.
So now I'm going to remove Steve from the wheel, and then we're going to go again for audiobook number 1. So here's your second chance to win. All right. Grant, you won. Congratulations.
and Grant's one of our Glenside people.
Yeah. And
Grant Blado, you are a winner.
You are. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And here we go for the last prize, audiobook of your choice. Here we go.
Big bucks, big bucks.
No whammies.
Oh.
Ron, you're so close.
You can tell your grandkids about this.
So now that Rob's won that third prize, Rob, you have to come on the show.
Yeah,
because you haven't been on in a while. So
I believe it's pronounced Inman.
Okay, so just to be clear, I did this. I didn't write anything down. So Steve
Ostrom,
and then Rob, Inman, and Grant.
Number 2 is Grant B. Grant B.
Grant.
All right, so there we go. Now, when I was here before, I promised that I would share the movies for a game that was never made. You specifically asked about games that are never made, and I have a couple, and this one is the most interesting to look at. It wasn't a Coco game. It was meant for mobile, but let me show you this. I actually went to Finland and presented this to Rovio, and they went crazy over it. They absolutely wanted to make this game. However, the company that I was with, K-Lab, they were a Japanese company, ended up deciding against it because it didn't fit with their brand well enough. So, are you ready?
It sounds like some lost media here.
Nice.
You have to break through the shield, I'm guessing?
Well, you don't, and that's kind of what this shows off is it's 3D, not 2D. You can actually go to a different angle.
Ah, okay.
So is this generated in something like they use for 3D movies?
Does it have
think
audio?
It's just it was definitely 3D rendered.
Yeah.
Was it silent or does it have audio?
Do you not hear the audio?
No,
No.
we don't hear
No, you have to click a little. There's a little checkbox for sharing audio when you start the share. So
Let
I'm guessing you
me-
missed it.
Grant
The
Blado
audio-
says, "Thanks, Glenn."
You probably have to
the
stop the
audio-
share and then
the audio's
restart
the
it.
best. So
It's part of the share screen on Zoom. So if you stop the share and then you go to share it again, you'll see a little checkbox in the lower left, I think it is, that says share audio. And that has to be checked.
Share sound.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I forget that all the time too.
Well, this is the first time I've ever shared, so that's why I didn't know. All right.
Curtis
Okay,
does
let's
this every
hear it.
week, and he still forgets.
There we go.
I
Better?
hear it now.
Wonderful.
Still nothing there.
I heard a click earlier.
That's weird.
Yep, no sound.
No sound still?
Nope.
Yeah, that's weird. I thought we heard something at the beginning, but
Did it
That-
uncheck? Did your sound uncheck?
I have share sound on.
Hmm.
And it's mono or stereo. I'll put it on stereo.
what format is the file you're playing?
Let me see. It's a MOV file.
Okay, I think I've shared
I'll
those before.
optimize
too.
for video clip. I don't know.
I don't know. We just watched the video too. I mean,
Yeah, that's a
if you can't
shame
get
though.
it-
The audio is kind of awesome.
Yeah, it comes. Heard it right at the very beginning, but
I think that might have been coming
Maybe
through his
sneak.
mic.
yeah, we hear that.
Sounds like it's
You know
coming
it's
through the
going.
mic. Well, we can add our own sound effects. Pew, 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 pew.
You don't hear any of this?
Nope.
Nope.
Wow.
Blammo.
Pow.
Oh my.
Bort.
I can guarantee the real sounds sound a lot better than we're getting from the panel right now.
Yeah.
So.
We're just rank amateurs, you know.
You guys are terrible.
Oh my goodness
We're
gracious.
just trying to fill a gap.
Hey, if you need human sound effects for your next book, there, Glenn, you know who not to pick now. So
Yeah.
Well, this is for the podcast later.
I didn't win on the spin, so I'm going to do this.
And this is for the audio version. Pew.
Pew, do, do.
Zrip, 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 zrip.
A cool game demo.
It looks
Mikey
really
in
cool.
the
It's a
chat
shame
says it was
was
just
never
coming
made.
through your microphone. It sounded like so maybe it wasn't properly sharing for some reason.
Whack.
I mean, I'm not using headphones specifically because I thought maybe the audio might need to go through the mic. If I use headphones, do you think that would activate the sound?
It might. It's supposed to share the system audio though, so it shouldn't matter technically, but it might.
Oh,
Sound drivers are a bit finicky.
thank goodness this is only a rehearsal, right?
Are you hearing the sound on your side?
I am. Like it's full volume. Everything's good.
Huh.
All right. Well, let's
I do-
take a look at this.
I do have a question. What year roughly was this kind of in the works and being
I want
presented?
to say like maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer. But right around that time, 6 or 7 years ago. So this was the prototype we actually built for the to demonstrate some of these things in action.
Kill 30 pigs to win or bring home the bacon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yuck, 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 yuck.
So the idea of this game was that it's less about figuring out your trajectory and more about choosing the right bird for the situation. I wanted to make it more like a collectible card game than just a physics demonstration. And again, you don't hear any of the sound effects, right?
No.
No.
Oh man, that's a shame. It's like half of the experience right there.
Always love the Angry Bird series.
Actually had a PC version of Angry
So
Birds.
did you have to approach them first to get permission to use the characters and stuff before you started doing the design, or is that something you guys did first and then presented to them?
So we were planning on doing this for Rovio. So they would have published it.
Yeah.
So, I didn't need permission because it was their property.
Okay. I didn't know if you approached them ahead of time saying we're thinking of doing something, I don't know if you have to get permissions for that kind of thing. So
I think the opportunity arose in which we had a chance to do something with them. And then I came up with this. So I didn't design this before and say, oh my God, I have an Angry Birds game I have to make. And we need to get the rights for it. Sometimes that happens, but it didn't happen in this case.
okay. That's too bad. I mean, the project got canceled just due to culture differences rather than, technical or gameplay or anything else that you normally would consider important.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, I can tell you hours of stories about how, the differences between the Japanese studios and the American studios caused a lot of problems. There's a real actual culture difference between Japanese developers and how they sort of view everything. It's not easy to break through. If they have an opinion about something, it's not easy to change it. And
Yeah.
I would say that an American is probably not going to be the person who does.
Probably not. It's funny actually, because when we did our big Dragon Talk special at the beginning, we had the Amigos on who do a lot of European and UK, Japanese based games on some of their shows. And they were talking about the culture differences between the three main markets: European market, which is like the pixel perfect. You have to do everything, absolutely everything dead on to survive. Like they're much harder than North American games. North American games, which are more generalized, and then the whole Japanese aesthetics and gameplay. It's quite a bit different. How they're really three different markets, and there's some crossover, but a majority of each market is to themselves that isn't as popular outside of that area. And now you're hearing it from the developer side, kind of the same thing. It sounds like the developer side of things is just as different.
And it's really interesting they had a game that they really wanted to get into the American market, and that was Love Live. It was based on an anime in Japan, and it was. Have you ever heard the term gacha? Gacha it's kind of like loot boxes. So you basically spin a wheel and you get something, and it could be rare, and it could be common, and it could be ultra rare. This is a huge thing in their culture, meaning that they have like stores you can go into that are just a bunch of these gacha machines. They're kind of like, gumball machines.
Okay.
So when I came to K-Lab, they explained to me, this is sort of how things are done. They wanted to bring this Love Live to America, but nobody knows who Love Live is. Nobody knows these little anime girls. So they wanted to find a license that they could apply that to, and they found it, and it was Glee. And so they wanted me to design the Glee version of Love Live, which I did, and we released it. But what they didn't understand is things that they take for granted in their culture, like gacha and merging characters in order for them to get better and level up, and characters eating other characters in order to get their experience. None of that made any sense in the Glee universe. So I had to come up with all these different ways, and their version of casual is to provide more choices, not less. And that is not the definition of casual in America. Actually, I don't think it's the definition of casual player anywhere. It's like casual players want less choices. They want to make sure that they don't do things wrong. And if you overwhelm them with choices, then they just don't get it.
Well, then it's not a casual game.
It's
Then
not
you
a
have to
casual
sit and
game.
think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I released Glee, and it did pretty well. But I had to make some significant changes, and getting them to agree to make those changes required me to do research and presentations. I had PowerPoint presentations, and then everything I said had to be translated. So a lot was lost in translation. It was very, very difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know there's a lot of stories from Sega back in the day between Sega US and Sega Japan having a lot of conflict.
Yeah, and I have to say, they honestly feel that they know best, and not because you have more experience or better designers, just because they feel like their experience, their cultural experience, has put them in a place where they just understand everything more. I mean, I can't, without sounding really horrible, I can't really go further.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're right in the Japan market.
Yeah, but that's not, and I would agree. I would not question them in the Japan market, but when it comes to other things, they do need some help, and sometimes they don't want to ask for it. But I will say that's limited to the people I dealt with. Of course, there's a country of people that I've never dealt with, but it was pervasive in the company that I did.
Yeah, and I think that for all three of the major markets that we mentioned earlier, I think that's a little bit applicable in all of them. Because, I mean, people in North America complain your UK games are way too damn hard, and they were meant to emulate arcade games where you were supposed to live for like maximum 3 minutes on a quarter type thing. So they were emulating that right through the entire range type thing. And you were expected to die continuously and eventually figure it out. Whereas we have a lot more, I don't know what you call it, loosey-goosey here. Especially nowadays. I mean, we did have a bit of that in the 80s, but now it's much more, you want to be able to survive for hours if you want to. Like you have constant, you can restart where you left off. You don't have to go back to the beginning type thing. That's all changed since the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like some of your older games you're giving away type thing. So
yes, that's right. So I should just sort of wrap up my segment. Tomorrow is launch day for me. It's sort of a big deal. And so everybody's welcome to to take a look at my books, my audiobooks. But if you just want to come and sort of figure out who the hell I am, go to mysterium.blog. All the information's there about the games I've written in the past, the books that I've written. You have access to everything there. And I love to have Coco people come on board into my world. It's great. I love coming back here every time I have something new to talk about. It's one of my favorite places to show up.
Well, thank you for that.
And I think I will be back next week to chat with a good friend of mine. You've announced his coming, I'm assuming, so I'm not giving anything away.
Yeah, he's actually got a little audio promo coming up later in the show today. So.
Nice. Yeah. So Dave Dyes and I are buddies from way back in the day. We had the big game companies side by side, and we could have been rivals, but ended up just not working out that way. He taught me a lot about what I needed to do to be a success in this industry. So I owe him a lot, and I'll have a lot of fun chatting with him next Saturday.
Cool. Just one last thing on the contest here. Steve Osterman won the first prize, which is a optionally autographed copy of a Sundog game. How does he get in contact with you to pick a game, or has he already picked it when he's put in his submission?
No, and so he and I should get in contact over email. You can write to me at glendahlgren@gmail.com, and we'll figure it out. If I have his email address, and if he entered previously, then I'll have his email address and I'll let him know.
Okay. And the same goes for the people that want to pick like which audiobook they want type thing?
Yep, absolutely. And thanks very much for hosting that. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad we were had a chance to do that.
Yeah, and congratulations on the new book, and the fact that you actually have a copy there you could show us today was awesome. You can see it's much thicker than your older ones.
It actually is. It's the biggest book I've written. It's 120,000 words.
How many pages, just out of curiosity?
Let me see. I believe it's 385.
How many pictures are in it?
One. You want to see it?
Yeah,
I'll show
that's
you the
Grant. There's no pop-ups.
Sorry.
Now, here's the picture. It actually was done by my son.
I was just about to ask if it was one of his,
That's
because
cool.
he's done some previous illustrations for you.
Yeah, I tend to ask for illustrations when there is something I need illustrated. So that particular thing, it's hard to visualize unless you have something to see. In Child of Chaos, he did a bunch because there was a visual element that I needed to keep putting in front of the reader to let him know, because it was there was an element of it that was repeating over time, and then it paid off at the end. And so he was really, I did it not because I feel all my books need illustrations. It's like I needed to accomplish a goal, and he really helped me do that.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes, especially dealing with a bit more abstract concepts of trying to describe some object or concept that you can't quite do it in words. Like you're going to get so many varied opinions of what that actually looks like from people reading it, which is good on characters because you want the reader to kind of like have their own ideas and they can create their own character in their head based on some description. But for something mechanical or something like that, you would really want to nail it down.
There's a thing in this book called A Prophecy Farm that it's kind of nasty. And I describe the top of it, and it is really hard to visualize unless you have a picture for it. So I was really happy. In fact, my editor came back and said, you should make this into your cover because people are going to want to know what this looks like. And I said, I got my cover, but I can do a separate illustration for this. So that worked out.
And then the graphic novel version, of course. No, I'm just kidding.
It could happen.
I'm totally open for it.
Hey, Brian Wiesler has a question for you. He says, your thoughts about the Sandman series?
I think I talked about that a little bit last time.
Yeah.
I've seen more of it now, which is good. So I'm glad it took this long for him to produce this series, because I think that some of his other works were not brought to life as well as they could have been. But this one, it feels like, I mean, I don't mind the changes they made to the original the source material. I think they did a really, really good job at bringing it to life. I love the casting. I love the effects. And they're saying, this is one of the more expensive
That's big budget, which is why they're kind of waffling on a season 2 because of the expense.
Exactly. So everybody has to go watch it so we can get a season 2, because there's
highly
a lot
recommended.
more Sandman to go.
And they threw it in that bonus 11th episode recently too, which I wasn't expecting.
I haven't seen it yet, but I absolutely want to.
Well, I'll tell you one little teaser of it, not of the storyline or anything, but one of them, the first one of the two, because 2 stories basically combined one episode, 2 separate stories. But the first one's actually animated.
Oh,
not
cool.
live action. The second one is live action, so it's a bit different, which is cool. It's kind of like what they did with Watchmen, when they did the Tales of the Black Freighter as a separate cartoony style thing. And Alan Moore is, of course, one of the mentors to Neil Gaiman. In fact, when Neil was trying to figure out how do I write a script for a comic book, it was Alan that kind of explained it to him. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, great series. If you guys are into fantasy and well, I don't know how to describe it. A bit of science fiction-y, a bit of fantasy,
It's pretty fantasy. I think it's more like contemporary fantasy, even though it dips into other time periods. But it's definitely.
Wikipedia has it tagged as fantasy, drama, supernatural, horror, and superhero.
Oh, yeah.
There's not as much superhero, I don't think, because they can't get a lot of the DC characters that were in the original comic book. That they have to go through all the rights with DC and Warner to get them all. So they only got like Johanna Constantine. They don't have like Batman showing up and some of the other people that have shown up in their actual comic book. But yeah, it's
you never know.
Yeah,
Wikipedia is never wrong. So
considering how expensive it is to produce already, getting the extra payment of rights to get some of those other characters, I don't know if they can do that or not. And if to be honest, if it takes not having those characters in there to keep the cost down a little bit to get the second season, I would take that in a second.
I think that seeing the Sandman actually sort of revealed to me how much I have incorporated horror elements into my own writing, and I'm pretty sure that's where it comes from.
It came from?
Yeah, I think Sandman really affected me because I started reading it early. I started reading it in college, way before I started writing my books. So yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a huge fan.
Were you? Did you read any of the Alan Moore stuff that came out before or during and after?
Sure.
Yeah, because the Corinthian episode, I don't know if you've gotten to that one on the series, but they actually make a reference to a previous Alan Moore story from Saga of the Swamp Thing, like 3 years earlier, which I've actually posted to a couple of friends who were into Sandman but never saw that original, because he definitively references that specific. Oh yeah, the real bogeyman, he drowned back in Louisiana, type thing, and that's exactly what happened. So
right.
Yeah. No, it's a great series. If you're into that kind of thing, it's one of the best, actually. And it was number one on Netflix until just this last week. I think another show only bumped it off the number one spot. But
I love to see that, and I love that they're making another Good Omens series too.
Yeah, yeah, highly recommended for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. How far are you into the series, just out of curiosity?
I think that's the episode I saw last. It was the whole cereal convention.
Yeah. The breakfast cereal convention, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot for coming on, and the people that have won the prizes today, please contact them via email. We posted that in the chat as well, so you can pick specifically the audiobook or the game, depending on which winner you were.
Yep, I will reach out, so don't worry.
And definitely looking forward to having you come on for a bit of a guest appearance and a guest interviewer, or you can be on the other side of the microphone for a change here and help interview Dave.
I will ask him all the pointed questions.
Yeah, bust his balls, I believe is the term we like to use.
Ooh, bring popcorn.
We'll see.
Bring popcorn.
You would. I think
he'd bust you back.
An exchange like that.
All right, thanks again for coming on, and thanks for being a guest on our show so often here. So.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right,
Bye-bye.
thanks.
So speaking of games, I think we should go on to the Game On Challenge. What do you think?
Well, almost. Why don't we do
this? Hi, this is Dave Dyes. I'll be appearing on CoCoTALK on September 3rd at 1 p.m. I'll be talking about everything I've done in my Coco days, as well as a bunch of projects that I've worked on since then. And if we're lucky, Glen Dahlgren will show up and give some of the stories that we had from our days working together.
You are watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading weekly video podcast featuring the Tandy Color computer. We spread the love to the past, present, and future for all models, including the original color computer, the Coco 3, and the world-renowned exclusive French-Canadian Coco 2. The Radio Shack.
CoCoTALK would like to thank the patrons who sponsor our program, so our heartfelt gratitude goes out to Alan Huffman, Alan Murphy, Blair Ledoux, Boat and Aaron, Brendan Donahue, Brian Weasler, Brian Walsh, Karen Anscombe, D. Bruce Moore, Daddy Burrito, Daniel Williams, Diego, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Graham Vebke, Grant B., Grant Leedy, Henry Strickland, Jason Downs, Jay Style, Ken Reichert, Malfunct, Melly, Michael Pitsley, Mike Rayburn, OG Hugo, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Paul Thayer, Retro Tech Time, Rick Hewlin, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Stephen Wagner, Steve Batson, Steve Rasmussen, Terry Steen, Terry Steggy, The Backyard Shed Gang, Tim Thayer, Tom C., Tom Gunderson, Tom Heron, Tom S., Tony C., and William Athing. Thank you ever so much, patrons.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord This Week?
Rastike says, Hi, I'm Chris. I was at a friend's house today where he pulled out his Cocos, 2 and 3, and we fought with Sub-Battle Simulator and Dungeons of Daggerath. We had a blast. Was actually looking up the info on the Linux port of Daggerath and someone mentioned this server on Reddit. I'm interested in C64 and Amiga as well, but we had the Coco back then. I like to browse the Facebook groups where people post their finds, although I'd be in the doghouse if I started buying big old computers. Also03 says, my name is Keese and I have an Acorn Atom. I ported MPAGD to the Acorn Atom and helped a lot of people with porting MPAGD to other systems. MPAGD is a multiple platform arcade game developer tool for creating games. At the moment James Diffin Daffer is working on a MC10 port of MPAGD and I want to help him with that. That's why I joined this Discord server, because I have some question about VMC10, a MC10 emulator. The goal is to create a MPAGD MC10 suite for easy development / creation of games for the MC10. Kilmana says, hello, I am Michael from the Sunshine State. I enjoy most retro systems, arcade, console, handheld, computer. I dug up all my Coco hardware from storage and I am looking to focus on working with them again. I found this server through my research looking for information and hardware upgrades. I'm trying to reconnect with the Coco world. I started out at 8 years old developing software on the TRS-80 Coco 1, and it opened the doors for me to become an electronics engineer / developer with modern languages and hardware. I would like to circle back to my first love, the Coco and the 6809. Raxfail says, hello all, I'm Peter, from the southernmost state in Australia. My folks bought a Greycase Coco back in the day, and I at an early age started my journey into computers and programming. The subsequent Coco 2 and 3 were where I learnt basic then assembly before moving to PCs and C++ as a career in software coding. I still have that Greycase, though it looks like the BIOS chips have failed, and the RF output is a pain. Maybe I'll be inspired to get it running again and shuffle through that pile of old cassette tapes. The previous bios were edited for time. Thanks to Boys in Tech, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Nightbeard, Glenside Computer Club and the CoCoTALK patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. http://discord.cocotalk.live.
See y'all on Discord!
You were walking through the woods when you suddenly fell into a dark cavern filled with venomous snakes, absorbing blobs, and mechanical monsters. These automatons aren't just pesky, they are a robot nightmare.
Robot Nightmare.
The new game for the Tandy Color Computer 1, 2, and 3. Robot Nightmare.
Robot Nightmare.
Semi-competent, semi-graphics. 100% machine language. Really. Still, digital to analog converted sound. What are they saying about Robot Nightmare?
Robot Nightmare.
Steve B. York says, I hope this is just a nightmare. Elkert S. Boyle says, nope, not on my site either. Nick Marionette says, crikey, look at the size of that croc. Get your copy of Robot Nightmare.
Robot Nightmare.
Physical or digital at kenscococorner.itch.io.
Welcome to the CoCoTALK Game On Challenge of the Week results video. This week we played Lift, on your choice of the Coco 3, the Coco 1 or 2, or the MC10. In total we had 15 different players. On the Coco 3, we had 11 players. We had Mr. Dave 6309 with 4,840. Nine Finger Tom, 6,290. Kieran, 6,550. Chris B, 7,450. Rick U, 7,490. Ed Rhodes, 7,600. Mark B, 7,850. Sabhead, 7,860. Jim Rye, 12,730. Shenley, 15,050. And the number one score on the Coco 3 was Buck Owens with 25,300. Let's see how the scores for the Coco 1 and 2 turned out. On the Coco 1 and 2, we had 6 people submit scores. We had Oscar, 2,330. Chris B, 4,480. Rich N, 6,420. Kieran, 10,100. Sloopy Malibu, 10,950. And the number one score on the Coco 1 and 2 was Buck Owens with 25,640. Well, let's take a look at the MC10 scores. On the MC10, we had a total of 3 scores submitted. We had Kieran with 13,240. Canadian Retro Things with 14,930. And the number one score on the MC10 was... And also, the Triple Crown winner, Buck Owens, with 24,970. Thanks everybody that played. We'll see you next week.
CoCoTALK salutes Buck Owens.
Okay.
Is this the first time we had an MC10 game?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, good.
We had Pac-Man a little while ago, and is that the only MC10 one we've done? I can't remember.
Yeah, that was a part of our MC10 special, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, obviously, the Coco 3 was the most popular platform to play this on.
Yeah, the graphics are a bit of a step up on that one.
Yeah, the graphics are a bit of a step up. And, I did choose this one because it didn't scroll. And if you actually pick one of the games that scroll, the MC10 is actually the best one out of the 3.
Yeah, because it's got a much smaller screen move around. It's only 3K.
Yeah.
It's 6K on the Coco 1 2, and it's like 32K on a Coco 3, which even with double speed, that's still way too much. With the routines he's got, he could improve it, but somebody who knows Japanese will have to explain stack blasting to him or something.
There you go, Curtis. You can learn some Japanese and send off.
I don't even know English. What are you
blasting.
talking about?
Yeah, so obviously this is a newer game, so there's no write-ups or anything about it in any magazines. So
yeah, and the Coco 3 version just got released like recently. Like the Coco 1 and 2 version, I think was released last year, if I remember.
2021, and then the Coco 3 was 2022.
And the MC10 was 2021. It was a bit later, or around the same time as Coco 1.
Around the same time. He's actually
within a
got
week
the
or
dates.
two or something.
Yeah, he's got the dates on the website of when he releases each thing, and they're pretty close together.
Yeah.
And
it's loosely based on Mappy. It's not quite Mappy because it doesn't have like the sideways scrolling Mappy has, but
it doesn't have the doors to blast the bad guys with, yeah.
It's got what, 10 unique levels to
10 levels. I made it to level 10 once, and it's a bit more of an insane level than the rest. I think everybody was getting stuck on level 6.
That's what I heard.
It's counterintuitive because you have to run straight at the first ghost and hit the first elevator, and then he will just miss you. Because if you try to go off on the closest elevator to you, you get trapped by the 2, and yeah, you'll never make it past that level. So, yeah, I don't know. For the people that played it, what do you think of it?
My high score was the most I could get by level 6 because I could never get into level 6 very far.
Yeah, like I said, it's completely counterintuitive.
I think I could have made another, like one more bonus, and that would have been my absolute best score I would ever get on this game. I'm never ever going to beat level 6.
Once you get level 6, though, the rest of the levels up to level 10 are pretty easy. Like I said, I made it to level 10 once and died in about 3 seconds, so it's even harder. But
well, how long did it take you to get through level 6? Because that seemed to be a stumbling block for just reading the Discord.
I think I figured it out probably, I don't know, after playing the game for a couple hours, I guess.
Yeah, because I noticed like a lot of people seem to be getting stuck there and thought it was pretty impossible. And then I think Buck was the one who posted a video in the Discord showing how to get past it. There's a certain
I didn't
timing or
see
something.
that. Yeah, it's like I said, you have to run right at the first ghost onto the to the elevator that he's coming towards, and then it'll start going up just when he gets to it, so he won't be able to get you. Because you actually spawn right beside an elevator, but if you take that one, you immediately get trapped by the 2 ghosts.
Okay.
For me, the first game was the best game.
Supper.
For me, the first game was the best game because when I actually tried some strategy, I got worse.
That seems to be your theme, Mark.
And of course, you do get bonus points if you collect, just like in Mappy, if you collect the 2 identical flags, one after the other.
Yeah, then time remaining was a bonus.
And the time remaining was a bonus, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looked like a pretty good game. I unfortunately work just kind of hit me. I had a rush job on Friday, come in late in the afternoon, so I actually ended up working till 11 at night. So I didn't even get a chance to even be in the chat because I was trying to rush out. They're actually running the job this morning, so I had to get it out.
Yeah, all of his games on that site, they run all really well. Some are a little easier than others.
Quick question, Ken. I don't know if you've had a chance to check or not, but I know out of all the cross ports he's done, there was one that wasn't ported to Coco 3 yet. Has that one happened yet, or is it still?
I have not checked yet.
Okay.
I can't even remember which one it was, actually. I'd have to look that up. But because he has also now ported to a couple more systems since you reported on the Coco 3 system.
Okay.
One of them being the ZX81.
Oh, I got to see that one. I thought we had scrolling problems. Actually, that would be text mode probably on there, so it might actually not be bad.
Yeah. I'm actually interested to try and check that out.
Now you, we'll get it in detail in the Game On News, but you actually tried it out, some of the cross-platform versions yourself on that latest video, not of that particular game, but of a different one. But
yeah, I chose a different game just so that for a little spice.
Yeah.
But all of the versions that I tried, and I tried quite a few. I tried a lot more than what I put in the video. But they all played really, really closely to the same. The only one I found was maybe a little different was the Apple II version, which I felt was running a little bit faster.
Okay. Like I know some of them like have background sound because the computers have sound chips and stuff. So
yeah, the VIC-20, Commodore 64, ColecoVision, they all have background sound going the whole time. Then a lot like the Apple II, the TRS-80s, they just have it at the beginning of the screen and when you die. So basically times when you're not moving any characters around.
Cool.
But absolutely amazing that he gets it working on all of those systems.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that, just in the last few years here, we've actually got 3 cross-platform. One's not specifically designed that way, but 2 are. Fabrizio Caruso, who's using CMOC for part of his, has got a couple. They're more primitive games because he's actually steering for even lower hardware, like almost text-based terminal type stuff. But he's got a few games that he's ported now, and he's starting to support the graphics modes on the Coco and stuff too. And of course, in Inyafudo, who has 40 platforms or 45 platforms or something that's supporting
at
now.
least, and
with 4 different CPU bases and different VDG or videos displayed.
I think he's actually added a 5th CPU base now that's not on his GitHub page yet.
Oh, okay, cool. But his engine seems to be probably the more advanced of those 2. Like it seems to have a bit more quality and a bit more using the hardware that's existing in the computer. And then, of course, the AGT engine itself, which was originally done in the Spectrum, which we'll be mentioning in the news here too. There's a bit of an update about, and James Diffendapper, of course, is doing the MC10 port of that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that one's been ported to Dragon and the Coco by Keys and Paris Surratt. So that's where we got 270 other games to play.
An exciting time in the retro computer stuff, because I mean, can you imagine if this stuff had been around back in the day?
Yeah, well, I think this is something like Boat Fest, which is a generalized retro gaming. It's not specific to a console, it's not specific to a computer or even a genre like that. It's just general. You can actually have people that are playing on a platform they're familiar with, playing competitively with each other, trying to get the best scores because the games play the same. They're based on the same core code. It's just the graphics and sounds updated. So that'd be fun to pick some of those AGD games or some of the Inyafudo games, etc., and actually make that as a head-to-head competition.
And actually, I was going to mention it when I start showing the footage from last night, but Sloopy actually fired up the Atari version and played it, and he said, "Yep."
Did he do any better?
No, he died in exactly the same place.
That proves it's a good port between them all.
Yeah, for tips and tricks on this game, though, like I said, collect the flags in pairs and you can actually kind of control the bad guys because they will follow a pattern. They'll always come at you. If you move across the screen and make him walk over like an elevator shaft, he'll fall down it to go after you if he's a level below you or something. And then that can clear it up a little bit so you can move around. So I think the AI on it is that the bad guy is always going towards whatever side of the screen you're on.
Okay.
All right, so you start at the bottom, but you have to think top down, get up high and work your way down. Usually works out better than
the
opposite.
Because if he's above you, he can drop down onto you. But if he's below you, he'll just drop further down below you.
He has to wait for an elevator, and then you've got time.
Yeah.
And then your crossing path is always drop and go to one side. So yeah, it works out good once you do that.
Yeah, all in all, a really fun game. And I mean, Mappy is one of my favorite games that I have on my different systems. So
cool. Well, if you want to show the gameplay video, I'm kind of curious. I didn't get a chance to even watch it. So
okay. Well, let's watch the flip book of the gameplay footage. That will be my sharing. Just close off my camera there.
Your PowerPoint presentation.
Yes. There we go. And
does it go beep? Turn the page.
So I don't know how well that's coming through, but we've got actually all three versions here.
So the MC10's the upper left corner, it looks like.
Yeah.
Coco 1 and 2 lower right, and the other two are Coco 3, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see like between the MC10 version, especially between the other two, they actually had to change like the wording of where the score and stuff. They had to abbreviate things just to get it to fit.
Yeah. And it's interesting, actually, when you look at the Atari version, all of the scores and everything are actually down the side of the screen.
Oh, okay.
So I'll try and find where Sloopy was playing that. It was right at the end of the... So there, that's the Atari version right there.
Okay, so they narrowed the play field. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So is the Coco 3 not running in 320 mode? Is it only running in 256 wide mode? Or?
I really don't know. But yeah, you can see like all the levels are identical in all the platforms, and the logic of the bad guys seem to be pretty much exactly the same. And
now, this is a game that doesn't use joystick on any of the Coco versions, right? It's all keyboard, or
all the joystick, all the keyboard. It's keyboard on all of the Coco versions. The Atari sounded like Sloopy was using a joystick. And I know the C64 and VIC-20 versions are joystick.
Oh, okay.
Can be.
The monsters, you could kind of predict what they were going to do.
Yeah. So you can kind of lead them around the screen. So let's go back and see the Coco 3 version again.
Not the randomness of the previous game.
No, not at all. Which was really nice. You could predict what the bad guys were going to do. Although a little infuriating when they get you trapped in a corner and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, because the elevator doesn't start in time.
Yeah.
And just got to stand here and wait to die.
Yep.
No, it's pretty cool having, 3 levels of color computer here running the same, base game with vastly different graphics capabilities, but, maintaining the gameplay as closely between them as so that you can actually play them head to head, and that's fair. It's not like, one has a distinct advantage over the other.
Well, I mean, you even look at like Buck Owens' scores. They were all within 1,000 points of each other on all 3 different platforms.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that might take a bit getting used to, say, like the MC10 keyboard versus the Coco 3 keyboard or something like that, but that's about it. Difference-wise.
Well,
just because the keys are smaller and harder to hit for a lot of people.
Yeah,
with
if you're
fat,
playing
pudgy
on real
fingers.
hardware, I guess, yeah. If you're playing on an emulator, it's just where you
Yeah.
where the keys are. But yeah, can't remember.
Or you could switch them up with Rick Euland's keyboard.
Yeah, there you go. Although it didn't use the arrow keys, at least on the MC10, it used the A and the S keys, which I guess are the arrow keys on the MC10.
Yeah, because it's like a function key to get an actual arrow, isn't it, on the MC10, if I remember?
Yeah.
You have to hold down that extra key.
I think it was kind of interesting to get an entire game out of 2 keys.
Yep.
I need a 2-button joystick, but I don't need the joystick, just the buttons.
That's even less than Space Invaders, which had 3.
And it's nice too that now there's 11 more machine code language games for the MC10. So
Yeah. I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, when this first started, when we first started discovering these, it like in the original Tandy, there was like one machine language game, and that was Lost Valley Pinball. That was it. Everything else they sold at Radio Shack was basic.
Yeah.
And then, we got some other ones like James McKay and a few other people did like Pac-Man and Space Assault ports and stuff like that. So we got a few. And then a couple of years ago, we started getting a few others that were machine language. And now it's just taken off like crazy. We've got, cross-platform engines. We've got actual original stuff coming up later in the Game On News. We've got Simon Jonason porting Timberman to it. There's a ton of stuff going on.
it's nice to see.
Yep.
All right. Well, does anybody else have anything else to say about this game, or like did people enjoy playing it? Or is it worth going out and finding more games like this to use for the Game On Challenge? Or
I haven't played it yet, but I would say yes.
I wonder what would happen if you chased a ghost. Would you run?
If you chase the ghost, I think you.
I'm guessing no.
I did like the puzzle aspect to it a little bit because I'm losing my twitch. So kind of being able to scan the screen and figure out a path and not have to be millisecond perfect was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good combination of strategy and arcade. I'll definitely be playing this week. I'm hoping work is mostly caught up now. I've got a couple other jobs, but they're smaller, so that even if something happens with them over the next few days, I should be able to free up a little bit of time. And I'm hoping to get an entry for this game and Ken's new game up on the games page, which will be the first update I've done in at least a month or two.
All right. Well, is anybody interested in seeing what next week's game is going to be?
No. Anyway, no. I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, let's just move on to the news then.
I tell you, some people.
Now, I figured since considering our guest for next week, I thought we would try this game.
I know that one quite well. Considering I patched it.
Anybody else recognize it?
It's got a dock.
It's Mission Russian Assault.
Correct.
That is correct.
Not Russian, but Russian Assault.
Yep. There we go. Here's the title page. Written by Dave Dyes, who will be on the show next week. So
yeah, and there's a bit of a backstory on this game in particular that Mark and I know a bit about because he talked about it when we were doing our test call. How the game started to be one thing and ended up something different, and he'll kind of explain that. Also, he gave full carte blanche. This is one of the games I've optimized for the 6809 and optimized for the 609 because it is a little bit slow on the original release. And he said he's fine with people using any versions like that for the challenge. So those are available in the Color Computer Archive.
Yep. And so you can play this game and come up with some questions to pick Dave Dye's brain about on it. Like, why did you do that?
Speaking of, just to rattle it off here, like these are the games that either Dave wrote himself or sold through Diecom. Some of them he co-wrote, some of them were written by others, and he just sold them, kind of like Glenn did with Sundog. But just for you guys have a list of these are the games you can ask questions about that he'll be able to do some answers. So Color Car Action, Gold Runner, Fighter Pilot, Pump Man, Gold Runner 2, Knockout, Marble Maze, Karate, Paper Route or Route, depending on where you are, Gauntlet, Bouncing Boulders, Mission Russian Assault, Mission F-16 Assault, Lansford Mansion, WrestleManiac, Gates of Delirium, Grand Prix Challenge, Iron Forest, Medieval Madness, Gauntlet 2, the Rat Graphics Package, which is actually a utility, not a game, Caladero, The Flame of Light, Xeneon, and Sinistar. So there's lots of stuff you guys can ask questions about.
I've got plenty of questions about Gates of Delirium for him.
Yeah, actually, I do too. Like, who won the damn Coco 3 that I tried entering for? Because I did beat the game along with a friend of mine here, and we were far too late. We didn't even qualify for the free caps and T-shirts.
I guess I should jump back in and finish that game before next week.
Yeah, you were pretty close. You're already in the second world, so
yeah.
Yeah. No, it just from like Mark and I, or when I originally talked to him, there's a lot of behind the scenes stories of some of these games here. Like the fact that Roland Knight was the genius programmer among them, and he's the one who taught Dave how to program. So Dave was learning as he went along too. And I noticed that even just going through optimizing some of the games, you could see his techniques on his really early games was pretty simple. It was like my first ML stuff there. And then you start learning tricks to get stuff to run faster. And you could see his progression as he went. But he has high praise for Roland Knight's programming skills. And of course, that assembler that Glenn ended up using, Oblique Triad ended up using, that was created by Roland and Dave and a few others. And then, some of the stuff that they started working on, there's a couple unreleased projects that never got finished that, I've seen one of them when Bill and I were down at Rainbow Fest back in the day, a few games that started off one way and ended up being quite different. A couple of those you can see if you look through the Rainbow ads, like the original screenshot is totally different design than the actual final game was, which they update the screenshot 6 months later, and he'll explain how that all worked too, for placing ads in Rainbow months ahead of time when the game wasn't even done yet. But a lot of cool stuff. He's got also his experience going into the mobile markets and for consoles and stuff like that too, like some of the stuff he's done since and still is. He's still involved in the game industry, and there's a lot of cool stories there. Kind of a parallel path to Glen Dahlgren, actually, because they both kind of kept going in the game industry, just up to more modern hardware. Could be a long interview. There's a lot of stuff to ask about. Or we might have to make it 2 parts. Who knows?
Bring some extra snacks.
Yeah, I still have no official. There's 2 other sets of interviews we're trying to line up. I've been trying to line them up for 3 weeks straight now. Haven't got straight answers yet. They look like they have a fairly good chance of happening. Unlike the Mike one, I have no idea what happened to him. Nick and I have been trying to contact him now for almost 3 weeks, and we were going back and forth. It sounded pretty good. We had some questions. We sent him some pre-questions, so in case he wanted to think about it, to kind of remember what the answers would be. And he just literally just disappeared off the face of the earth. He hasn't responded at all. So hopefully he's okay. I don't know. Maybe something happened. Crossing my fingers that is not the case, but we're still hoping that we can get a book. If we can't, if something has, we do have a little bit of stuff we can show that was going to be part of the interview. And we'll wait a while before we do this, but we do have some screenshots and even some video of a second unreleased game that Michael had done. That was like 90% finished, I think. And Nick, is that your understanding, or was it completely done?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Okay, because it actually did look pretty impressive, and it was a Coco 3 only game with Coco 3 graphics, so that'll kind of give you a little bit of a teaser. But even if the interview completely falls through for whatever reason, then we'll probably show some of that just to kind of show what we would have talked about in the interview, but just to give you guys a bit of a teaser as to what he was working on next before he exited the Coco community. So, Russian Assault, play the regular version, the 6809 enhanced version, or the 639 enhanced version. You'll see gradual increases in speed as you go between those. It's also one of the ones that, if I remember, he actually wrote it in such a way that if you have a Coco 3, it will use the two buttons on the joystick, which is much easier to play. Because if you can shoot or you can throw bombs, and on the Coco 1 and 2, because you only have one button joystick, so one fires and then you have to hit a key on the keyboard to launch the bomb. That's a little bit awkward if you're jumping back and forth. But if you have a Coco 3 with a 2-button joystick, you can actually do it all from the joystick, if I remember correctly. So that's a little tip for the Coco 3 players out there.
And there is no MC10 version, so
Not yet.
not yet. Yes, perhaps something
I never
we can ask
thought-
about
I-
next week.
I never thought we'd see a Bosconian for the MC10, and thanks to Inafuto, there is one. So, so do you want me to go straight in the game on news?
Sure.
Yeah, I can push the little button here.
Yep, you can do it now, or you can wait for the regular news.
From around the world, what you need to know. Get caught up on News with L. Curtis Boyle.
And now a Muppet News Flash.
Don't forget to share stout.
Okay, it's ready for you.
Hey, you guys seeing the nice view from Ken's cabin?
It's got a lake. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's where Ken hides the bodies of people that try to break in to figure out what the next game of the week's going to be.
Yep.
Well, as they're finding out in Lake Mead, wasn't such a great idea.
Right?
It's great
It's
until
okay.
the water runs
I know
out.
where the deepest part of this lake is. So
Yeah. Now, is that lake drying out like a lot of lakes are in China and southern states and Europe? And
actually, we're having record rainfalls here this year.
well, that's where all the rain went. Okay,
if you go just east of us to Kenora, I
Yep.
went out there and I went on a little boat tour around there, and all of the cabins that are along Lake of the Woods there, all their docks are underwater, and most of them have water right up to their front doorsteps on their
Oh,
cabins.
wow.
And these are, $7-8 million cabins that are out there. So
yeah, Lake of the Woods was where a lot of the movie stars and stuff live,
Yeah.
right, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, even here, you got trees right down to the water line. So, yeah, pretty full, eh?
yeah, it's gone down a lot since the spring, but yeah, we had water right up to our lawn here, I guess, after the snow melt this year. So, which is about 4 feet higher than it usually is.
Anyway, I'll play it a little bit, then I'll mute it, and then Ken can kind of talk about what this video is about, which you kind of mentioned earlier.
Hey there. This is Canadian Retro Things, and I'm Ken. Welcome. Today, I'm going to look at one game on many different platforms.
Okay, I'll fast forward a little bit.
Comic Sinclair 1000.
I believe it's Maisie's the one that wasn't ported to Coco 3 yet, if I remember correctly.
Possibly, yeah.
And every other one of those now is on the MC10, Coco 1.2, and Coco 3.
I will look that up while we're talking about this, but
And we've talked about those before, so I'll kind of skip ahead
Yeah.
here. But and here you're kind of explaining, like, these are all the different YouTube videos, and it usually does 1 minute clips of the gameplay on every platform, so you can kind of see
Yeah.
and compare them. You'll see a couple other machines actually that use the same VDG chip as the MC10 and the Coco 1 and 2 too. So you'll see, like, I think the VZ200, for example, use the same chip, even though it's a Z80 CPU based system. So let's fast forward. You kind of explaining where to get them and download them, etc.
yeah, and what everything means, what all the different headings are there. Maisie
this
is still not on the Coco 3, it doesn't look like.
Okay.
Looks like he hasn't been reporting it to any of his new ones.
I don't know if he's playing a rewrite maybe or something.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, so I just tried it out on 6 different systems here. So
Now I did notice something here. The magenta characters.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the exact same graphics as the game you guys played this week? As the characters there?
Yes.
Like it is. So he's reusing some of the same sprites even.
yeah, he's reusing the sprites. The bad guys and the character are the same across a few of the different games.
Okay. So it must be a purposeful theme of some sort.
Or just reusing the code for different games.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the ones with background
The music and the sound effects in this version are very good. Of course, I did have to mute it.
Oh, right. Yeah, you had that problem.
Yeah, and pops. I had the problem with my emulators. For some reason, on these games, the emulators were popping and buzzing, and I don't know why, but it was annoying, so I couldn't play the music on some of them.
There's the Apple II version.
Yeah.
Good old Apple win.
And the Apple
What I
II
did-
suffers from the scrolling slowness.
Yeah,
like
it
those
suffers
ones.
from the scrolling problems, and the thing that I really noticed is that the fireballs seem to spawn quicker.
Oh, so there's a bit of a difference in the gameplay in this one.
That was it. This was the only one that I noticed it on, though. I noticed you had to be a lot more exact with your timing on running from this top section here to get up that ladder before another fireball hit you, whereas on the other versions it seemed a lot easier.
Yeah. Now, I will mention that the Apple II has to bulk, do the old-fashioned way of scrolling too. They have to bulk, copy the entire screen down or redraw it at the very least. While some of the other ones actually support hardware scrolling. The Coco 3 supports hardware scrolling, but you can't tell it to cut off, so you can leave like the score and stuff at the top. It'll scroll that too, unless you do some like fancy timing tricks and stuff, which I'm assuming his engine probably doesn't handle. So I think that's why he's not using hardware scrolling on the Coco 3 version. It's not impossible, but you have to like time it. You have to set up an FIRQ timer or something like that to interrupt when it's so many scan lines down to shut the scrolling on off. I think that works, right, Nick?
Oh, sorry. What was that?
See, I did find it a shame that
Nick
the
doesn't
scrolling
listen. Yeah, I know.
problems. There was the
I was
scrolling
just-
problems on the Coco 3 because actually, like, this is the Commodore 64, and I like the graphics on the Coco 3 way better than this.
Yeah, except the scrolling. The scrolling is much smoother on this.
The scrolling is really smooth on here, but the graphics are more colorful on the Coco 3 than the Commodore 64. So
Yeah. Now the question, Nick, was you can do timing tricks on the gimme, so you can have the vertical scrolling turn on and off so many scan lines down, right? Or can you?
Not the vertical, I don't think. No. Not vertical scrolling, no. A horizontal only.
Oh, okay. Well, I was wrong.
Well, I could be wrong. I haven't done that. So talk to Sock and everything's possible.
Yeah, exactly. Now, whether it's something possible, but you can actually do in a live action game, though, that's a bit of a different story.
Yeah.
But ironically, like Ken, like you said, like out of the 3 Coco related or color computer related versions here, the MC10 actually does the scrolling the fastest because it has the least amount to scroll because of the lower res. Actually doesn't do too bad on this one. I'd have to say, given the limited res, because he's running this at 128 by 96, I think, 4 color. The animation on the character actually looks pretty good, like the running, because you're literally talking a pretty limited number of pixels there.
yeah, and that's the same guy he used in Lift, so the same little character.
Yeah. And these are all cassette. He doesn't have any disc versions. Now, I noticed on this video here, you actually hit the problem where he's mapped the graphics from 600 hex up. You can see that little scrolling bit of color in the upper left there. And that's because that's the disc motor timer running. Because it's hard coded for cassette graphics default, not disc graphics, which is set way later because there's a whole chunk of stuff reserved for disc buffers. Did you get a chance to try that ROM-L to?
No, I have not tried that yet.
Because I will mention for people that have hit this, if you've got a cassette-based game for the Coco and it's doing that little thing, and occasionally it will crash, like Grabber, eventually after you run over that thing and it keeps changing the timer, it will eventually crash Grabber and it'll freeze if you have the cassette version of Grabber. And multiple other ones I've hit that on. But ROM-L was a disc loading, it was meant for cartridges or cassette-based games. Came out in 1982 by MTP Technical Products. And basically it basically loads in the game, figures out if it's a ROM cartridge game mapped way up where the ROM should be, or if it's something that was lower memory. Irregardless, it disables Disk Basic after it finishes loading, and then runs it as if it was on a cassette system, totally disabling the ROM, so it actually fixes that problem. Now, it's not perfect if you have a really large game, like a 32K game that takes most of RAM, or a 64K game, it does not work properly with those, it won't fix those. But for the older 16K games and the smaller 32K required games, it actually lets them run without that little timer thing going, and it won't crash. It actually lets the game run properly. So if you've hit any of those, ROM-L is available on the Color Computer Archive because I put it there myself.
And here you can see the Coco 3 guys, the only version that he's got different colored shirt and pants.
Yeah, the other one's he's nude, right?
He's just white. Yeah. He's a little naked guy running around.
He's a naked computer geek because he's all white and never got a tan. Yeah. Now, does some of the other like C64, the higher end versions, have any color on the character, or is it uniquely Coco 3 as far as you know?
What I came across, I think, was just Coco 3. Trying to remember, did the ColecoVision have colors too? Like the VIC-20 didn't, the Z64 didn't.
Let's see here. Yeah, 2 obviously didn't. Coleco here.
But we get Timberman and
just white.
Well, no, the ColecoVision wouldn't, because their sprites I think could only be 2 color or 4 color, wasn't it? Like hardware limitation of the sprites.
I think there wasn't a hardware limitation like that. The hardware limitation on the ColecoVision was that you could only have so many sprites on the same horizontal line.
Yeah, same as a 26. But they also had limitations how many colors could be in the sprite. Like C64 thinks 4 colors max.
Because if you think like Donkey Kong on the ColecoVision has 3 colors on the Mario character, so.
Yeah, it depends if they did it as sprite or if they did it as tile or bitmap. Like that was some of the ways they cheated to get around it. But like this, I think it is sprites because it's drawing on the background fully masking properly, where if you look at the Coco versions, you'll see it actually has a black square around it to make it run a little bit faster.
I am interested to take those ColecoVision versions.
Like here, you can see there's a black square around it because it's just drawing it straight rather than trying to mask it on. Whereas a real sprite-based hardware one, it does do the background. Sorry, what was the thought I interrupted?
Oh, I was just going to say, I kind of want to, when I get home, I'm going to try and take some of those ColecoVision versions and burn them onto cartridges and actually play them on the real hardware.
That'd be cool. No, this is a pretty good one. We never had a Mappy clone for the Coco, as far as I know. Not that I recall.
Well, this one, I don't know what this one would be based on. This game. Mappy was the one we played.
I'm talking about the one from the Game On Challenge, because that was one nice thing about it is that it's not a complete clone, as we mentioned, no horizontal scrolling and stuff, but it is the closest to a Mappy clone the Coco's ever had, and we've never had it before last year. So anyway, thanks for the video. I wouldn't mind seeing you do this on some of the other ones. I mean, there's 11 games total they've done so far.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of interesting to see those if you need a bit of a filler stuff with all your other hardware things. And now, are you going to be doing anything from the VCF live or anything like that? Are you planning on? Or?
I haven't decided yet.
Because Amy and Taylor are planning to be there. You're going to be there. Some of the people from Glen's side are going to be there.
And Sloopy's going to be there. And
anybody else on the panel going to VCF? Is that this month, September?
Me.
2 weeks.
I'm planning on going.
Yep.
I still need a roomie, but yes, I'm still going.
Okay, and Jason, you're going, you said too?
That's the plan.
Yep.
Are you dragging your brother so he finally gets out of the house?
No. I don't believe so. That would be news to me. No.
Oh, come on.
Sarah would like to go, but I don't know if she's going to be able to go.
Oh,
not looking favorable though.
Ah, really? That sucks.
Grant, are you going?
Yes, I am.
Oh, that sucks.
Oh, thanks, Jason.
Don't worry, Grant. I'll be sure to bean up for you.
Yeah, I got to put up with. And Stevie's going too, unfortunately.
Well, he's got to go to something because he never attends our show anymore. So
I know. Well, the show's been quite a bit better without him, though. So don't complain.
So now that you have brought that up, though, on the weekend of the Chicago, the VCF for Game On, we're going to do next week. I'll just announce 2 games, and we're going to do a 2-week play.
Okay.
So we'll skip the Game On the Saturday show, since a good portion of us will be at the VCF, including me and Slippy. So
a question: are you guys actually displaying, or are you just attending?
Sloopy's got a table, so I'm just going to set up a little corner of Nitrous 9 demonstration on it.
Okay, because if you guys have some Cocos, or depending on the games you pick, maybe put them up playing on there, and you can let people that normally never watch our show come in and try the games out and record their scores too, just to be a little different, expand the market, and encourage them to come to see who won, the following week type thing. So maybe get some new viewers.
Oh, I think I've definitely I have 2 tables, so I definitely think there'll be some room for that.
Okay.
Oh,
so
cool.
Ken, you and Jason, if you guys can synchronize so you know what the games are ahead of time, to make sure you can set them up and test and make sure they work on whatever hardware you're using.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be announcing it next weekend, so he's got a week to figure it out.
Okay, cool.
I've already got my copy of Color Script set right here.
Perfect. I was also thinking color scripts it and personal finance.
I was going to think Spectaculator because it's more modern.
Yep. And just to let you know, too, Glen is going to have a table. And also we did a sponsorship for VCF Midwest. So there'll be a lot of advertising for Coco Fest this year at the show as well.
Oh, good. That's something that's needed. We need to get some of the other retro people to come out and check us out, too.
There's $100 well spent.
Cool. Looks like there's going to be a lot of Coco content this year, which is good. Take over the show, guys.
Absolutely.
There'll be at least a Coco corner or a Coco row or some type of Coco section. So
cool. So next up, I've got here. You guys might recognize these fellas, famous from Boat Fest. But basically, there is episode 35 of the Coco Show. This is one I was looking forward to watching because when they announced it, they announced it actually while I was on their show live at Boat Fest. And they said they picked Color Robot Battle. Another, for those that are into trivia, there's actually two games for the Coco that were called Color Robot Battle. The first one was by Spectral Associates. It was a Berserk clone, published in 1981, I think, late 81. And later with a 32K version, it talked with an Elmer Fudd lisp. But then Tandy came out with this, the one that they ended up playing on the Coco Show, which is a programming game. It teaches you some rudimentary programming, how to program your own AI and that type of thing. A learning game, basically, like learning some programming stuff. And completely different than Spectral. Spectral was a Berserk clone. So Spectral ended up renaming their game to Android Attack, which is how they sold it after that. And Tandy took over with the Color Robot Battle, which is the game they covered here. So I'll just play a little bit of the intro, and then I'll just play a little bit in the background, kind of talk about it a bit.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Coco Show. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about the Color Robot Battle.
Oh, man. And what a battle.
Did you ever get into it with the old rock?
Anyway, I'll skip the bantering part. But if you're watching it, I mean, if you're not into programming, this is probably going to be the most boring game ever. But basically, you're typing in commands like move and turn and scan ahead to see if there's a robot there, and you react to if you do detect one. Do you fire? There's a couple different weapons. Do you move towards it? Do you move away from it? Like you have to try to come up with strategies. And it's basically a forced two-player game. So each player will program the robot separately, and then you just basically let it run. You load the programs on both. You compile them both, and then it goes a little graphic representation on the fast where you kind of see it. And you watch the two robots following their programs. And the funny thing is because you've got a really wide open space here, and your detectors only work so far, and you've got so many different moves you can use. It's a fairly limited language that you can literally set it up and nothing happens. Like the robots just wander around aimlessly and randomly shoot and don't hit each other and stuff. So it's quite interesting. If you get some of the more intricate programs, and the funny thing is this is a popular enough genre with programmers that there's actually websites devoted to writing these scripts. That you can actually go find and download and throw them in and see which one works better. And some of the big longer ones, which they didn't use on their particular segment here, because they wanted to kind of do the playing of it, not just copying what other people had done. Though they did copy some simpler scripts. There are some included with the manual too, but it's a rather unique game, and it's one of the earlier programming games, like Core Wars and a bunch of others that came out. And there's a bunch of others since then, but this is one of the earliest ones, and it kind of shows like the Coco's strength that we were more of a programming computer. We were a games machine as well, but we had more of the serious users, I think, than a lot of the other 8-bits at the time. And this kind of shows that. There was an Apple II game very similar to this, came out roughly around the same time, as the same year anyway. I'm not sure which one got released first. I know Glen Soggy talked about designing this back. I think he started designing in 1980, like literally within the first 6 months of the Coco's release, from when we interviewed the image producers. So it's a really early on title as far as getting designed. Now, I was going to ask anybody on the panel here, because we have some programmers on the panel. We got some, a bit more of the geekier types. How many of you out there have actually tried Robot Battle? Besides me, I tried it a little bit when I was younger. Nick, did you ever try it? You're a programmer.
No, I never tried it. I liked the idea, but I never tried it.
Okay. Nobody else?
No, not me.
Rick?
It was many years later when I started playing with those little tab robots that ran around on tabletops. that I started doing stuff like this. So I completely missed out.
Okay. Were you aware of it at the time or not even aware of it?
I kind of knew the name, but not what it was. But I had so many other priorities I never got here.
Okay.
Small wallet, big ideas, you know.
Like when I played with it, it was more of a curiosity thing. I was already writing my own basic games by the time this came out, so it was kind of like, you know, this is much more rigid. It's a robot battle game. I mean, you're kind of limited to what you can do with it. So I wanted the more freedom of doing whatever programming I wanted to do, of whatever game type I wanted. But I did find it interesting. I think if you had started not really programming until you tried this would give you a little bit of hints into how to write AI. Like, how do you can't just do totally random. We've actually played some games recently that, you know, that absolutely sucks. Where if a game's too random, it's not fun. You need some sort of guiding principle to it. And then this is a way of, you know, kind of take it to the other extreme where you're very strictly following these rules that you program in, and then you watch the two robots wander around and almost never find each other type thing. So you can kind of see writing a good AI for a game is paramount to making a good game, but it's also not the easiest thing in the world. That may be a bit harder than people initially guess. So you have to kind of play with it. You know, you might random, but if it's a certain random, then you're actually going to like track where the other player is and actually do something specific to find them. Because this doesn't do that, and then it takes a long time to find the other robot type thing. So
looks way more fun than Logo Turtles, eh?
I don't know. I like the fact that the Coco logo actually lets you spawn multiple turtles, because that was extremely rare in Logo back at that time.
Yeah, but these turtles can shoot.
That's true. And two different things. They have a laser and a cannon, so you have two different types of shots too. So anyway, it's a pretty good one. Now, obviously, they're not going to be huge fans of this because they're not programmers. I mean, Aaron dabbled with it when he was young. Boat, I don't think really has done much programming side of things. So it's a bit obtuse to them. I think they appreciated what it was trying to do, like you said, Rick, where you kind of appreciate it from afar, but it's not something that they would, you know, pull out and play. I don't think we'll ever see it at Boat Fest as one of the competitions or anything, honestly. But pretty cool. Also, the recording for the next one, which is Shock Trooper, is actually normally it would have been today. They would be doing their 3 or 4 shows in a row type thing, but because Boat's got a commitment with one of the bands he's in all day, they're actually recording tomorrow. So if you want to catch it live on Twitch, you can just find the Amigos Gaming on Twitch, and you can actually watch it live tomorrow. They do the Spectrum show, the Atari show, the Coco show. Next up, we have a bit of an update from Simon Jonasson. So he's been porting Paul Thayer's Timberman, which kind of brings this project full circle, because Simon was helping teach Paul, because that was his first machine language game for the Coco 3. He helped him doing the, you know, how to handle the graphics, how to handle the sound, how to read the joysticks and all that kind of stuff. So he actually helped Paul write that game, and now he's actually porting it back to the MC10. So he did a couple of updates and a couple of quick video clips of it during the week. This is the latest one. I figured there's no point in playing the previous ones because he's advanced more. Now, he's got the assets converted so that the graphics are scaled down to the MC10 smaller screen. And now he's got it so that the lumberjack is a little bit animated, just like on the original. And you have the little menu of your play board type thing, and you can move the little hand selector as to what you're picking as your option going. So I'll just show that. So basically, this is a project update status. Now, of course, since the MC10 doesn't have a joystick normally, this will be a keyboard operated game, unlike the Coco version. And Timberman was the featured Coco game at Boat Fest, which I think I've mentioned before too. So and actually it was the most popular game out of all 3 platforms that were part of the challenge at Boat Fest. So,
and the
kudos.
easiest to bot.
What's that?
And I said the easiest to bot.
Yeah. So they had a lot of fun with that. There was a heated competition between 2 particular players that had to go to a tiebreaker. We had to bring in Paul Shoemaker's pack game. Trying to remember something maze. I'm blanking on it at the moment, but you know, the circular one where you have to run around and avoid the chips that Curtis tried to pull out of a circuit board and mangle all the pins.
Yeah, the 2-button game.
Yeah. Another kind of game update here. Paul Shoemaker did a couple quick video updates on projects he's working on. The first one is part of a Pico 8 virtual console game called Invasion, originally written by Joe Rodriguez, which will be on the left, and I'll play that. Now, this is the second Pico 8 type game that's getting ported to Coco, because Paul Thayer's Coco Bon is also based on a Pico 8 game that he's been porting over too. And Paul actually gave a presentation about that at Coco Fest. So if you guys want to check that out on the I'm a Coconut channel on YouTube, you can see his presentation, which shows some of the graphics and explains the gameplay and design, etc. It's a Coco 3 strategy game. It's based on Sokoban with a ton of extra elements to it. So anyway, I'll show what he's got so far here for Invasion. Now, is it showing on Zoom screen? Because sometimes it doesn't share properly when I do this. Are you guys seeing the screen?
Yes.
Okay. It's kind of a Space Invaders with a little bit of a shadowy look to it with the colors, I guess. But just a start to it. And then one he kind of did with his son here is this little animated Earth thingy. Now, remember, we've seen something like this on, trying to remember the Adventure International game. Rearguard has this at the very beginning of it, if you guys have played that game, by the author of Sea Dragon. Because he has a little spinning Earth in the middle of when you start the game, and then it actually has a spaceship fly out from it, spell the word Rearguard, and then you actually start playing the game. So it kind of reminded me of that. Next up, as just announced today, Robot Nightmare, which is actually, as you'll see by the tag at the bottom here, is actually part of Septandy. So, Ken, you kind of broke the rules and you wrote it a little bit early here because it's not September yet and you've already released it. It's sort of cheating. But because the promo just kind of showed a bit of the graphics here, I'm actually going to play some of the gameplay and the intro screen here. I won't play the whole 5-minute video, but just to kind of give you an idea of the sound effects and then, you know, what the intro screen looks like, the high score screen looks like too. The scoring and stuff is done with semi-graphics, just like the game itself is. So as Nick well knows, because he's doing it on his games too, including his upcoming Jumping Joey, if you use strictly graphics characters and don't try to mix the text characters in a semi-graphics mode, you can get it to run on a Coco 3 perfectly fine. If you try to do the semi-graphics text characters in a higher mode, those will not show up on a Coco 3. You'll just see the graphics and you won't see any of the text at all. So like some of the older games with scores and actual text to read did not work properly. The game plays, but it doesn't fully show up properly unless you do it this way. So that's what he's kind of discovered here too, and I'll play a little bit of that. Available now on itch.io on Ken's page. I play several quick games in succession. I'll just play until the first game is over here, and then you gotta get a feel for it. Then I'll stop it. Now, Jason, you're still on the call, right?
Yes.
Obviously, you've been helping your brother beta test this, I'm presuming. How long has this been in development for?
I saw an early demo of this like a year ago, just as kind of a concept, but then I think it was just one of those projects he got back here within the last few months that I started to see some betas and got some betas to play with.
Okay. I guess the game it most reminds me of, because of the screen layout and stuff, is probably Wizard of War, but it's not quite Wizard of War. It's got a lot of extra gameplay elements of the certain monsters doing certain things, and you know, I haven't seen like a wizard or a warlock or some of those bonusy things come out, but
I think it may be at least partially inspired by it was an Atari game. I think it was called like Dark Cavern or Dark Chambers or something like that. It was a M Network game.
Oh, from Mattel. Okay.
Yeah, but for the 2600, I think it was. That's what.
Because I'm just looking like that little room in the bottom there. That is very Wizard of War like, and the little red doorways on the sides is very Wizard of War like. So maybe that M Network game was loosely based on Wizard of War 2. I mean, the play of the actual monsters and stuff are a fair bit different, and some of the goals and stuff where you spawn's quite different too. So
I wish I could remember the right name. Oh yeah, Dark Cavern. Yep.
Okay. Now I have to say, given the limited horizontal resolution of a semi-graphics game, because you basically only have 64 pixels going across the screen, and every pair of them has to be black or the same color. He's got a very nice looking here, like the snakes animated and waves around, and the robot, or where we want to call them, actually have little spinning wheels that you can watch, and the limitations of the drawing, the character that's running around itself with the shifting legs and arms and stuff actually looks quite good. So he did really well with this resolution, which I'm sure Nick can appreciate because he's had to force graphics onto these lower res screens too. So
yeah, no, it takes a bit of getting used to this mode, but if you sit down, design it right, it can look pretty good, colorful, on a black background.
Yeah, which is like a mantra for you.
Yeah, that's right. Looks very non-Coco-ish.
I do like the fact he used a light blue, the cyan, and the darker blue for the walls, and he kind of offset them isometrically, so it looks sort of a 3D, like it looks like walls standing up. You're looking from the top type thing, which is nice. The
only thing it's missing is furniture.
Yeah, I was kind of missing the couch. I thought there'd be at least a couch bonus somewhere in here. It's not a proper, nightmare game without a couch popping in front of you every once in a while.
And unlike Dark Cavern, it does have multiple mazes. You see, as you progress, the maze does change. I forget how many possible mazes there are, but the maze is different on different levels.
Okay, so that's also like Wizard of War then. So that original M Network game, I'm guessing, must have been loosely based on Wizard of War, and then Ken kind of expanded on that one closer to Wizard of War itself without maybe even realizing it at the time.
And if you look on his itch.io page at the physical copy you can buy on the DVD case, it advertises 100% furniture free.
See, that's a disappointment, honestly.
If you click on up above, up near the top there, click here to buy Robot Nightmare Physical Edition, and then rotate the case.
Where do you rotate the case?
I like what Jim Rye said in
at the top corner.
Chat. Spoiler, the couch is one of the bosses.
There you go, 100% furniture free.
I'm so disappointed, Ken. I don't know what else to say.
No, good. He's done a good job.
You could have at least put a rocking chair or something in there,
or
maybe not a full size couch.
You should have started that little room.
An
you
ottoman.
started in should have had a little couch in it.
Yeah,
get off your couch and go out.
Like that center part where the player launches, he should be sitting on a couch first. Then he gets up. At least a tribute to the couch.
Off the couch and off you go. Yeah.
Like that bare naked lady sign, or an ottoman, type thing.
It looks like the game needs 32K of RAM.
Does it say here?
Yeah, it says on the bottom of the package.
That's what it says. It says it on the, web
package?
page there too.
On the back package.
Oh, yeah, right here. Yeah. So is it keyboard or joystick driven, Jason? Because it doesn't really mention.
I do believe it does both.
Oh, okay.
At least I think it did. It's joystick, definitely. I thought maybe it did keyboard, but that might have been something, or at least joystick for certain.
Okay. No, it looks like a really good game. And I think
it's polished. It's got all the polishes. Title pages, high school pages, instruction pages, and he's distributed, available as a download and on CD.
And I think, unlike you, Nick, I don't think he did the title page first.
That's all right. He'll learn.
Everything
I
is
learned that, though,
down.
but what I learned is if I do the title page first, the game never gets finished. No, it's
What's
good.
It's more information.
Yeah, you can play with keyboard too. I just confirmed that.
All right.
Or at least one day ago.
Keyboard or joystick.
Cool. So yet another machine language game. Now correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but this is Ken's first completely machine language game. In fact, I think on the teaser trailer, he actually says 100% machine language really this time or something along that line.
he does.
Right, yeah. Correct. It's not 100% machine language and basic.
Yeah. Now, Ken was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he's still there or not. I don't know if he wanted to pop on, maybe talk a little bit about the development of the game here to try to promote it. I haven't seen him actually respond the last little bit, so maybe I had to leave.
He had a function or something today.
Right. Yeah, I think he's unavailable at this time.
Just like him to tease something, early. It's not even September for September yet, and then he goes and buggers off on top of it. That sounds like Ken. Anyway, I'm imagining if he's not able to make Coco Fest in April, I'm imagining that you will be selling this on his behalf with a physical copy. Or
I would think that would be a possibility. I'd have to talk to him about that, but I'm really hoping he'll be able to go in April. That's the goal. If not, I don't see why we couldn't arrange something.
Okay, because I'll probably buy a physical copy. I like to do it in person just because I like to thank people for writing games and stuff. So
I wonder if it's going to be more or less for a signed copy, or maybe the unsigned one will be more.
Well, I think we could get Glen Dahlgren to sign it. It might be worth more. So. And the last of the Game On news this week, I've got Coco Forest, who's been doing the Dragon games, actually pummeled out a whole whackload of them this week. I'm not going to play anything unless somebody wants to specifically see something. But basically from the backtrack Eddie Steady Go on the second row there, everything left and above that is new this week. And once again, they show the original artwork and stuff. There is one that's a little bit curious. Actually, I'll play it just at the beginning so you can see the packaging. If it doesn't give me a stupid YouTube ad. So basically, these two games here were both written by Spectral Associates, but both of them were distributed by Tandy in North America on cartridge. So Downland, obviously, we were very familiar with, and Demolition Derby, which is kind of a bump and jump without the jumping. On the UK, on the Dragon, and I guess for the Dragon 32, I'm guessing there probably was a Coco version at some point. I don't know if that was sold by Tandy in the UK or not. But basically, these both came out cassette instead in the UK with completely different artwork. We're quite familiar with the artwork for Download, of course. And Demolition Derby, I think, if I remember correctly, the Coco version from Tandy had some, it looked like a 4-year-old colored it with pencil crayons or something. It wasn't the most impressive artwork. The Downland was pretty good, but obviously different artwork yet again. Sold in cassette as opposed to cartridge. And Demolition Derby actually has John Gabbard, the author's name on it, which I'm pretty sure Tandy didn't put on any covers of any of the stuff they sold. You might see it in the game title screen itself. So that was a bit strange seeing it there. Of course, it's all P Mode 3 because they want color instead of black and white. So you'll get that garish green screen type thing. So I won't play it and burn your eyes out. But I just thought it was interesting that they had completely different artwork and on a different medium, because obviously the Dragon could play cartridge games, and they sold quite a few games, including stuff that was sold in North America on cassette or disc. They sold in cartridge in the UK. So it's kind of a flip reverse here. But these are both Tandy titles here. So I thought that was a rather interesting one. And then the rest of them here, I mean, most of these you guys have already seen before, or we've shown before. Like there's a few, like Racer Ball is basically Ghost Sculptor with new graphics. And Pedro, I think, was actually a game we played on Game On Challenge, if I remember, Ken. It's one where you're tending the garden and you have to get rid of the deer and everybody else trying to wreck them. So
yep, we played that one. I was really bad at it.
Scarf Man, I found that kind of amusing that they did a port of the Cornsoft group Scarf Man, because the Coco version was one of the very few third-party machine language graphic games for the Coco that ran on the original 4K Coco 1. You didn't even need 16K. It was one of the very few, besides the Radio Shack cartridge ones. And the fact that the Dragon 32 came with a minimum of 32K, remember, you would think they'd kind of skip that, go to a more advanced one, which Racer Ball is, honestly. And they also got a few others, I think, from Tomix and stuff. But to port a 4K game to a 32K Dragon seemed kind of not the greatest idea, because it wouldn't be the best looking Pac-Man to fit in 4K. So I'm not quite sure why they chose that one to port, but it's there. And
what's Leggett?
Leggett?
Yeah.
That one.
All right.
Basically, try to run to the top without getting hit by something, and then start adding more stuff for you to deal with.
And tougher, and if that's not enough, a multitude of nasties begin to appear, to attack and hinder you. Find out if you have the skill to leap your way to safety and success.
This one,
lady that called me about my extended car warranty.
So this particular 2-pack video, and like I said, he always has a theme when he does these 2-packs, either the same publisher, the same author, same genre, same arcade game clone or whatever type thing. In this particular case, it was 2 Dragon 32 exclusives that were not Coco, published on the Coco whatsoever back in the day. So that finishes the game on news. Do you want me to just go straight on to the regular?
Yep.
Kill that off. Okay. Nope, that's not the right one. Or am I showing the right screen? Yes, I am. I'm just going to get rid of this one. Okay, so first up, we've got Alan Huffman and his blog for Subethos Software. And in this case here, he's talking about go sub stack overflows and 6 out of 9 stack jumping. And it's actually because he found a cool technique that was used a little later on. Because he basically goes through basic and figures out how to do it. Like a go-to is basically a jump, and a go sub is basically a JSR or a BSR in machine language. So basically it puts the return address on the stack. Like, where did you jump from? You go run this other code somewhere else, and then it does an RTS, return from subroutine, like a return in basic. And it basically yanks off the stack, the address in memory it was running at before you did the jump to subroutine, and then it just comes back and goes there. So what he kind of goes through in here, he shows a way of canceling a branch of subroutine by simply doing an LES 2-S as a little technique, which apparently he wasn't familiar with. I know that's actually used in quite a bit of OS 9 stuff. I think Basic 9 uses it in spots. G Shell uses it in spots. But basically, sometimes you'll jump to a subroutine, but then some special condition will hit where you don't want to return back to where you were. But you've still got this return address taking up memory on the stack. So if you do an LEAS 2-S, which is basically load effective address S, basically it means S equals S plus 2. So basically what you're telling the stack pointer is just forget that other one existed. That return address, we're going to pretend it's not there. It's still technically there in memory, but you've moved the stack so that any RTS after that's going to skip to the next one on the stack. So it's basically a way of canceling a return and getting the memory back from it if you have that special case where you want to break out of a subroutine. And I've also seen like Basic 9 also uses the technique where depending on a special condition, it'll change the return address. It'll still have one because it'll do some cleanup that's generic to no matter what happens, but there's something in the middle that's different. And the middle part will go and say, I'm actually going to change that address on the stack. So you're going to come back to a completely different routine than from where you came from. And that's actually used on quite a few programs I've seen too, is another advanced handling of the stack subroutine routines and where they return to. So there's a couple of little neat programming tricks you can do with the stack here. So he kind of goes through going through the go-tos and go subs in basic and how those work. And then he starts getting into the machine language version of it here too, kind of showing the equivalence at first. Then he kind of shows that LES trick. So it's a good article to explain some of the similarities between basic and machine language, where they're basically doing the same thing and how they work internally. And then also showing that with machine language, you have a bit more options because you have more direct control of what's going on. So you can kind of cheat. There probably is a way to do with pokes and stuff to do the same in basic, but because pokes have to go through the whole floating point interpreter and stuff here, they're probably slower than it's worthwhile asking. So anyway, another great article from Alan. He's got a whole bunch queued up. Last time I talked to him, he's got stuff queued up until October. So his Septandy, I imagine, is going to be just a deluge of articles. So he's all ready for Septandy. For your programmers out there, Pierre Sarrazin has released version 0.1.79 of CMOC, the C compiler, which actually works for both OS 9 and regular Disk Basic. This one here just has some general bug fixes and optimizations, and it now adds floating point support for the Dragon DOS environment, because apparently it didn't before. And Dragon DOS is very different than Disk Basic. That's one of the things that is very different on the Dragon versus the Coco. And it has an option to allocate more stack space in OS 9 as well. So and it now issues a warning when passing a structure union to a printf or an sprintf. So that's the updates here, kind of highlighted. And if you are doing any development using CMOC, you might as well grab it. It's got some nice little features. And the optimizations, I don't know how extensive or where they are. But the fact that there's bug fixes as well, I would just download it even if you're not going to use any of these newer features. Grant, I'll let you talk about this one. This was put up by the other Grant.
Hey, yes. So just let you guys know that we have finally got the contract signed for Coco Fest 31, and the room code for the room blocks is also out there now. Just it's GCT, I believe it is. So the rooms will be $119 a night plus tax for a king or 2 queens. And then also at this hotel, we have a king bed suites. So if you want to get a suite with a pull-out sofa, it's $134 a night plus tax. So you can make the reservation online or by calling the front desk. And yeah, thank you. The phone number is down there at 630-665-3000. The next thing we're looking to do is we need to come up with a theme for next year for Coco Fest. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, just reach out to me there at cocofest@glensideccc.com. And then there was one other thing too, I can't remember. Oh, that reminds me. We'll be going to the new location on Friday before VCF Midwest. So we will be taking some measurements there, getting it and working on the table layout so we can get that up and going hopefully by sometime in October. So other than that, that's all I have for right now.
Okay, cool. I mean, the room rates are really good. That's like literally $60 cheaper than Boat Fest was. Actually, more than that. Sorry, it's $80 cheaper than Boat Fest was. Because I mean, as you will have told us before, and I've noticed traveling to the States a couple times the last few months that hotel rates have really gone up.
Yeah. The days of the $99 room or less are pretty much gone unless you're going to stay in a in a sleazy place, if you know what I mean. So
yeah. But yeah, 119 is actually a pretty good considering the current market.
Yeah, and it's a really nice hotel too. So
yeah,
I think everybody will be very happy with it.
Yeah, should mention that the reserve discounted rates that you have to be reserved by March 30th, which is 3 weeks ahead of the show itself.
That is correct. Yep, March 30th.
And also to mention here, free coffee in the lobby. Housekeeping upon request apparently is just normal in hotels now after COVID. But it's also got a swimming pool and hot tub. So if you want to bring your trunks, I brought them, never had a chance to, but if we stay a bit longer this year, I think I'm going to partake in that.
Yeah, and just to let you know, for the housekeeping, they will come into your room and clean it if you request. Most people do not want people coming into in their rooms every day now with after COVID. But like for me, and I'm sure Curtis is the same way too, I would like to at least have my coffee refilled. So just let them know at the front desk, and they will be more than happy to drop off more coffee, to take your dirty towels and replace them with clean towels, that type of stuff. But they don't really make your bed anymore like they used to back in the old days. I think
the bed part I'm fine with. The coffee, I need that more than I need air to breathe. So
exactly. So and also we will be offering coffee at the event too, but I don't think Jim's going to allow us to have a unlimited bottomless
well, like I said, I'll kick in a few extra bucks for coffee. Like it, maybe that's what we need to. The coffee drinkers can donate an extra $5 each or something that will cover something.
Yeah, and we can talk about that. So we'll figure that out.
The other thing I want to mention here too, they mentioned a convenience store. Is that right in the hotel?
Convenience store. Oh yeah. So the convenience store, there is a little, for like sodas, kind of like they did at the other location. You can pick up sodas or candy bars, that type of thing.
Okay. And a full service restaurant, Burger Theory, open for breakfast and dinner. And then They have a breakfast buffet for Saturday and Sunday mornings. And I'm assuming we're going to partake in that.
Correct. Yep. They're doing the buffet just for us, but it'll be open for everybody in the hotel. But they don't normally do the buffets, but since we're such a big group, they're going to do that for us. So, which will be nice because we just grab and go, Yeah.
And I mean, we did do the buffet the one day at the last one here. And actually that was good because we actually got to mingle and talk without,
exactly
wandering around in front of Coco's and stuff and getting distracted.
Yeah, I liked the buffet at the last place. I went 3 or 4 times, I think.
Yeah. Mark, did you say something?
Yeah, wasn't there a pilot truck stop like right behind the hotel?
There was a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, I think there was a 7-Eleven right next to
the old place.
Okay. Well, yeah, the old place had the 7-Eleven, but this new place, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, there's
big
like
one behind there.
There's a couple gas stations just within walking distance. So, yeah. In fact, if I remember correctly, there's even a car wash. So
if one runs out of Dr. Pepper, we got a backup.
Exactly. And like I said, the nice thing about this location, it is not in an industrial park like the other one was. So, and for the people who have gone to Fire and Wine, I mean, it is literally just about a 5-minute drive from where we're at now. So it's in that general area. So if you went to Fire and Wine, we're basically in that same ballpark area.
Means it's also closer to the Micro Center South. Priorities. Hey, 60 asked, could we start over again? He missed everything.
And the answer is no.
Yeah. Well, on YouTube, there's that little thing you slide backwards, and we'll do the whole thing over for you again.
Yeah.
Gotta love Micro Center.
Now, Grant, I had a question here about Jason of VCF fame. We were talking last year about having a kind of a guided tour of their warehouse, which wasn't too far from the last year's location. I don't think it's too far from this one, because they were planning on having the whole thing set up and all the equipment down there that they wanted, and having some of these things where you can actually try out some of the the old computers and old consoles and stuff. Have you guys talked anything about that, or will you be talking to him about that at VCF just to make sure that's still happening?
Yeah, I'll talk to him at VCF Midwest. I mean, what days do we want to have that on? A Saturday or Sunday? I would say Sunday probably be the better day to have it on.
Well, it depends if you want to do it in the evening or if you want to do it during the day during the show. Like we did it on an evening. We did Sunday evening, which was kind of, because some people had already left. So that was kind of bad for that. But like a Saturday evening might not be a bad idea if it's, maybe more like a late afternoon, early evening, then we could still have a jam session and the gathering afterwards. It's kind of open. Like, are you guys getting it Friday and Saturday? Like Friday night?
I have a better idea. Let's just skip the jam session and singing. We'll just go straight to the VCF Midwest.
Or we could haul guitars and stuff down to the warehouse and actually just let it get really loud because we're, who cares? We're in a warehouse.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah, I'll talk to Jason about that. In fact, I'll be talking to him too for the T-shirts as well, because I'm really going to try to get the T-shirt thing going this year as well.
Oh, that's another thing. You're soliciting for T-shirt designs. I think Ron, you've actually sent a few up already, haven't you?
Yeah, yep. He actually sent the poster and a T-shirt design. In fact, I'll be using his poster idea at VCF Midwest. And thanks to VCF Midwest, if you guys go to their website, VCFMW.org, they are advertising us very heavily too at their show this year. So that will hopefully also increase our turnout as well.
Cool.
Okay, what did you say the address is? I'll bring that up. VCF.
VCFMW.org. So, yep, you see it down there at the bottom.
Oh, the scrolling part, you mean?
Yeah, yep. And they're also going to be having us on the TVs there in the lobby throughout the hotel. And like I said, I'll be putting some posters in there.
Taking over the show, folks.
And they're also going to announce it too over the intercoms throughout the 2-day event. So.
Cool.
And of course, also Grant B is going to be making some handouts for us to hand out on the table there. So we should hopefully get a good turnout maybe this next year. We're going to advertise it quite a bit. So
okay, yeah, maybe sync with Taylor and Amy. I mean, they're cross-platform, but they're planning on being at VCF Midwest too.
Oh, great!
They've been talking with Ken about that. I know they were a bit late because from the sounds of it, the hotel's already fully booked. Is that right?
Yeah,
Ken?
yep. That hotel books very quickly.
So they were making alternate arrangements, but they are planning on going. So
yeah, there should be a overflow hotel at the Comfort Inn. That's where we stayed at last year. So you might let them know that.
Yeah, Ken, if you want to pass that on, since you're actually going to be there too.
Or if maybe they're listening.
They could.
Well, normally they'd be up in the chat already here, but I haven't seen them. So I don't know if maybe they're going to have to catch us after the fact rather than live.
Wait a minute. You mean there's people listening and watching right now?
Yeah, we're sorry.
This is going out over other people. I thought we were just chatting.
No, this is the rehearsal.
Oh, thank goodness. I don't have any makeup on yet.
And just to let you guys know too, we have been getting donations for the auctions too already. So I actually just got an email this morning from somebody who's going to be sending stuff, and then I know that Tony Perdaza also had like 5 or 6 boxes that were shipped to his house as well too. So if you have anything you want to send to for the auction for Coco Fest for donation wise, let me know. We are reimbursing shipping costs. So if you're not able to attend the show, reach out to me and we'll get that arranged and get you reimbursed for the shipping cost.
As Nick knows, I'm actually going through a massive cleanup of my house right now. I've actually been finding stuff that's been sitting hidden on shelves in the basement for 30 years. I didn't even know I still had. And I have stumbled a couple of minor color computer things in there that I did not know I still had because I thought I'd given it all to Glen Van de Bigler years ago. So I might have a few small items. There's not a lot of it left. I did take most of the stuff over there, but I might actually have a few things to donate this year.
Okay. And like I said, if you want to save room in your car, just reach out to me and I'll reimburse your shipping.
Oh no, I'll haul down the car there because then
okay.
Ken can have first pick and we'll kind of plan what he wants to get.
Awesome.
Okay, so on to other stories here. So Phil Crewman, who has a show called 3 Minute Retro, he did a 3-minute video about the Coco 2. He had a couple factual things a little bit off, so I actually did send a comment or two, but and I won't play the whole thing because you should go check it out. So his views go up. But he's got kind of just a quick rundown of the Coco 2.
Welcome to 3 Minute Retro, and today we're going to cover the Color Computer 2 from Tandy. And the Tandy Color.
So what accent is that? I'm not really good at differentiating between, like English and Australian and that type of thing.
Not Australian.
Not American.
Let's say Welsh. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's English.
Replaced the Model 1 in 1983. It had the same
I feel Cambridge every time I hear this.
But
yeah.
a better keyboard, and it also had more integrated circuitry. There were several models.
Anyway, I won't play the whole thing. You can kind of go through there. Now he's got a later model of Coco 2 here because he's got the Tandy labeling, and so he might even have the lowercase T1 VDG in it. But basically, he just has this static picture that he's using here, and then he just kind of does a quick little rundown of what the hardware was, how compared to the Coco 1, etc. Mentions the Coco 3 came out later. So it's somebody that I've not seen cover the Coco before, so I wanted to bring them up. And if you guys want to go comment on his video, please feel free. Links, of course, will all be in the show notes on Discord. Sorry?
Spelt color right on the front of the Coco. Color, C-O-L-O-U-R.
Oh, yeah. It's spelled wrong on the tag at the bottom, but...
Yeah, so it's obviously
spelled both ways, actually.
Oh, yeah, down here, yeah. So, but the main title is...
Right.
Looks like there's a GoPro sitting behind it.
Were Coco 2s available in the UK, in Tandy there?
Yes. They were available in Europe in general, actually.
Yeah, this is...
Like they were available in Germany and Spain and stuff too, I think.
Yeah.
I remember reading. But the Coco 3s were... No, they weren't.
No, yeah.
And then there's another Coco 2 related video. This is from a YouTube channel called The Circuit and Game Guy 101. And in this one, he kind of fired up a little kaleidoscope program, which apparently from his commentary was originally from a Hot Coco issue. And he kind of goes through how to hook up the Coco 2 to the TV. He's got an older one. You can see the melted keyboard and Radio Shack label. But he actually did some modifications in the basic program to change it to throw in a little bit of sound stuff. Now, I won't play too much of this because we've all seen Kaleidoscope. So I just wanted to give him a shout out for trying a Coco 2 here.
Another video in the previous one, which was a short, I showed you this program that I got from Hot Coco magazine. It runs Tandy Color Computer 2, but I made some revisions to it, and I also wanted to talk about some of the problems I faced with trying to get this machine to work, which there isn't many really at all. But anyways, so the new revision I made of the code, still the same thing, except just plays a little tune, and that was.
Hey, man, I'll let you go, see what you see, figuring out how to hook it up to an RF device to a TV and stuff like that, too. Because, of course, a lot of the younger people these days don't have a clue what that is.
And that'd be an early Coco 2 because it says Radio Shack instead of
Tandy. And the melted keyboard. So that's probably a 1983-84
yeah.
And this next one here is from Pedro Pena. And this, of course, Rocky Hill on YouTube. And this is more of a fun video because there was some discussion on the Discord here about getting auto routers or routers. I don't know how you guys pronounce that for doing taking something from something like KiCad, which is what he uses for doing his circuit designs. And basically the auto router is basically to go through and figure out the most optimal way to do the wiring on the circuit board itself. And you guys that do hardware design, if you can let me know, like, from my understanding of it, it looks like you have to run this multiple times to get the most efficient version. Is that right for Rick and Mark and other people who might have experience with this?
Auto routers are evil. I draw everything by hand, as you can see from my face right now.
We can't see your face, but sure.
Oh, but if you see my face in the Zoom call, it's the Quadraphonic Orchestra 90. And router.
No, we're just seeing your circuit. You're seeing a circuit diagram on your. We're not seeing your face at all.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. That's
okay.
The hand routed version, and it was much quicker than trying to get the auto router to do what I want it to do. To just do it. I just find it quicker to just sit back. I don't do a jigsaw puzzle. I spend an hour. I draw this out. Yeah.
Cool.
Most auto routers just waste your time, but there are some good ones.
It really all depends on what you're doing. Like a simple board, like I've done, I've only done one board, but for the high res board, I used an auto router. But again, I was using a different thing, and it was a lot simpler. And there was a few things I did move around, but I used the auto router, and then I went from there and did a few things, but much simpler than what either of these boards are.
And Franklin Harris of Retro Rewind, he goes in the chat and goes, "Never ever use an auto router ever."
Most auto routers just waste your time. I do know one guy who used one. It was made by a company called Cooper and Cayenne, and it was used on certain packages developed 40 years ago, and it actually worked really good. It would actually save you time, but that's an exception.
Right.
I used the one in Eagle. It did me okay, but again, like I said, way simpler than what we're looking at here.
When you really start trying to cram things together, you need a little inspiration. But what has he done?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Wow.
Rick, will you be talking about your four-way Orchestra 90 later on?
Sure. We got to talk. It's
okay.
It needs help, but it's doable.
So, since you guys are at least familiar with what these programs do, and this is a plugin, like this isn't part of KiCad, it's something you can call from it. So you can see these flashing lines going across, and of course, because it's a very long video, he's already got it 8 times sped up. He does a bunch of dad joke overlays here just to keep you occupied. But what exactly are these flashing lines doing?
So when you the things that need to be done are the white dotted lines, and the auto router is trying to find a way to run a top or bottom track to make that connection without crossing over too many times or making too many vias where you have to go from the top to the bottom and back to the top again. So the white lines are okay. I'm trying to do this, and then it will draw it. And then I'm trying to do this, and it will draw that. And eventually it will turn into a tangled mess that it's going to take you a week to tangle out.
And that's most auto routers for you. Yeah, basically it's trying to make the connection like a highway from point A to point B, but it can't have any intersections. So it either has to go around things or has to go through the circuit board to the other side and go somewhere.
And the problem is, as a human, there are general patterns, like a ROM's going to have the address buses. You can plan that as a unit. It's going to have the data buses. You can plan that as a unit. They all go to a card edge connector. But the auto router doesn't do that. It looks at one, it looks at another one, it looks at another, and it comes up with some really strange decisions.
So they must be using a program similar to this then to design a lot of the interstate interchange roads and stuff, because that's a mess too, right? It's basically the same thing.
Well, probably so. Same logic. Yeah.
Yeah, because it looks complicated. Like I said, he mentioned at the beginning of this when he's showing this that this is running at 8 times speed. This is not a fast process, and this is not like a modern circuit board. This is fairly simple compared to stuff like that. So does this literally take on modern stuff like days or weeks to run? Like, does anybody professionally actually use this on higher end machines? Like, are those machines so complicated you need something like this?
Well, actually, might be the other way around. Modern machines use less chips.
Well, and if you're in a production environment, you can make rule sets so your auto router does a good job.
Plus, I mean, you've got stuff like multi-layer circuit boards, not just top and bottom. You have like 4 layers, 6 layers.
Circuit boards, and you can make I've got my address bus rules, and I've got my data bus rules, and I've got my XYZ bus rules. these are all things that a production environment, and a team can do. But as a person, you're just letting it do whatever the heck it wants and hoping it does a good idea. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. So
is that all the bodge wires you got to add?
No, you do this so you don't have to do bodge wires.
Well, all the white ones that just kind of cut across everything haven't been done yet, but potentially you can sort that out.
Not bad for only 12 passes.
Right.
I like the 3D, the model there.
Yeah, that's KiCad
and that's
itself, I
like-
think. Yeah.
It's a third party thing, but yeah.
Well, no, it's inside KiCad. Here we go. We'll go to where we got view, 3D viewer, and here's my Orc 90 board in 3D.
I'll stop sharing so everybody can see what you're talking about here, Rick.
Okay, I'll just do it again. So
Mark, can you zoom up Rick's screen?
If I can find him, he's
He's right beside you.
I look really weird, disjointed and kind of bruised.
You had him, I think, there for a second, didn't you?
Where
It's
am
the
I?
only thing showing a circuit board right now.
Okay, yeah, there I am. So in KiCad, you can look at your creation as a 3D board, and whatever you have models for, it will turn into a thing. So this would be how much crap you've got to put in a long card candy controller to make a 4-channel Orc 90. I don't have models for the connectors, so there's nothing there. But, this is all sockets and stuff. It would fit. We're going to need some smarts in here.
I just want to mention some of the comments in the chat have been coming in since Frank's original don't ever use an auto router. Coco Living says auto router is an oxymoron. Franklin Harris added, he said, did I mention never use an auto router? And Sixie has a bit of a contrary opinion. He goes, I don't know. I threw free routing at the Dragon board, component positions accurate to the original. It was kind of okay. I'd say for stuff like RAMs with lots of parallel routes, the result was pretty much what you expect. So is it useful for certain types of projects maybe and just not others? Or
well, the thing is, on those boards, a human has already laid out those chips to make the routes work.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a XY, cat and cart and horse thing. If the chips are already laid out properly, the auto router will do a great job. But how are you going to lay out the chips properly if you don't know routing? So the auto router only works if you could route it yourself, and in which case,
could you use that as a verification process? Like, let's say you designed your own routing to bypass it. Could it tell you that you have a mistake here? This isn't going to work or something?
No, that's already done, because if you look at my diagram, there are no white lines left. Every problem has been solved. There's no conflicts.
Theoretically,
so KiCad itself will check for that type of thing.
Exactly, that's just done for you.
Theoretically, you can make a poor choice, like how close you route something, or an angle or a turn, and it might correct something like that, make it more optimal.
No, nowadays you can actually put that in your board specs. What am I doing?
Okay.
And it won't let you exceed that.
Okay.
So if you have like timing delays where you have to keep the wires short at a certain spot, it actually will check that itself already.
Or you don't want them so close for capacitance or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all. If you do it all, if you remember to set it all up.
Okay. Yeah, the general consensus, except for 60 in particular on his RAM board, it sounds like nobody recommends this. So, Pedro, if you can come on the show, I'd love to see your opinion of it. I'm guessing it's probably going to be similar to what everybody else has said, but I'd be interested to hear your opinion, like why you decided to even try it in this case.
Comic relief.
Right.
Well, if you listen to the music in the background, it's kind of like that. It's almost got a Benny Hill feel to it type thing. And plus he's telling dad jokes throughout it, kind of hinting that this is not serious.
Okay, all right. And this isn't 8 times Coco speed. This is 8 times a modern PC speed that he was showing.
So these programs are slow to begin with, even on modern hardware.
Like usually when we see something 8 times speed, they're showing a Coco running things or an emulator running things. No, this is a modern PC going as fast as it can at 8 times speed.
Now, Franklin Harris is saying DCR rules will do that for you. What's DCR?
I don't remember.
I don't know that acronym. You don't know what that means, Rick? Or?
I'm not familiar with it either.
I don't know, but I mean, like in KiCad, you've got all these board constraints. So you can set up, okay, this network's a differential pair and you got to do this. This network is, high voltage and you've got to do that. I don't have anything suitable up. So you set up your rules. This is going to attempt to do them all. And
okay.
I think it's DC resistance, direct current resistance.
Okay, but like KiCad will let you say, okay, these two traces are a timed path or a pair, and they need to be timed together, and it will take care of that for you, so you don't accidentally, even if you try to route them differently, it will keep the timing correct and not let you step on your own feet too much.
Won't let yourself shoot yourself in your own foot type thing.
Exactly. Your foot gun is disarmed.
Okay. I mean, I've heard of outrouters before, and I just thought they were a tool that everybody used, but it sounds like actually almost nobody does. So I don't know why they're still being developed. Or are they trying to finally get it so they actually do run properly at some point?
It's like self-driving cars someday.
Someday it'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someday we'll be all replaced.
After they finish randomly crashing and killing people. Yeah. Sounds good.
8 bits in the basement says development control regulations, which that makes sense too.
Okay. And 60 said design constraint as to maybe why, or whether I guess he was guessing on DCR as well.
Yeah, design constraint rules. Sure, that makes sense also.
All right, so it sounds like this is actually, he meant it more as a comedy thing because I'm assuming he's probably like you, that it was basically, I would never touch this with a 10-foot pole in real life.
Right? It tried, but it couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess unless this is a work in progress, they're trying to get it up to the point where we can actually do proper designs later on. And this, you're kind of like live beta testing it for these developers. But it sounds like it's a product that should not be released in its current state, really.
Well, because I think he's already done this board. And now
I'm talking about this plugin to do auto routing. Period, like the whole auto routing scene itself.
Well, it's good for things. I mean, and especially if you do your board in sections, you can do a section, auto route it. The problem is simple and it will do it. And then you can add the sections together and use your intellect to tie them up when it starts getting too complicated, but it can help you in steps.
Okay. So it's not useless. It's just not good for something like this.
Right. It's a little beyond it's actually pretty easy to get beyond its capabilities, but you can use it for stuff. It can help.
Okay. Hey, well, that was a good discussion. I learned some stuff there because I didn't even really know what that all was. So. Next up, we have another video here, another Coco 2 video. This is taking apart one. So FFF Gaming Emporium, a YouTube channel, did a complete assembly of Coco 2. Now, this has no commentary in it, though he does have his mic running and you're hearing a TV playing some show in the background, which sounds violent. But I'm sure if I tried to play the audio, we get hit with something. But he actually takes apart, and this is also a later Tandy full keyboard. You can see it's rough, a bit rougher shape here, but with some of the damage on the lower right corner there. But he actually does take it apart to the point where he's unplugging the keyboard and he unplugs the power supply and kind of gives you a show of what the raw circuit board looks like here. You can see this is one of the later models too that has the option, like he's got the 8 chips there for 64K now, but it's got the option little daughter board, the 24464s, so you can do the 64K upgrade either way. So I'm pretty sure that's the model that has the T1 VDG. So I think I remember I left him a comment. You probably have the T1 lowercase capable VDG chip in this thing. It was just kind of interesting that this week there's like 3 separate, basically first looks at a Coco 2, and I haven't seen those in a while. Maybe that's kind of a precursor to Septandy, and they're all early. And like Ken Reighard, they don't know how to read the proper month that we're currently in because it's not Septandy yet. But it's just interesting seeing all these different perspectives. And I'm just ribbing you, Ken.
First mover advantage.
Yeah. Just a quick follow-up here. So Color Computer Programming also did a no commentary video because we kind of covered he was trying to do a Defender style engine in BASIC, which is quite a task to try to tackle, honestly, including scrolling the mountains and stuff. I did send him a comment not involved with this video. This video is just adding shooting and adding some pseudo aliens, which is that little Y thing. Actually, I might as well play it with it does some beeping sounds that we don't really need to hear. But I did mention like it gets a little bit flickery when he's especially trying to draw the mountains because he has to literally like draw it black, draw it white in the new position. I mentioned that if you actually do page flipping, so you reserve 8 pages of graphics memory instead of just 4, and then you draw on alternate frames. So you display the one you're showing with everything drawn on it, then you go to the other one, you wipe out the mountain, and then draw in the new white one in the new position. So you'll be jumping 2 positions at a time. And then you tell it to display that screen with the screen 1, after doing P mode, 4, 5, for example. You could actually get rid of some of that flickery drawing look and make it look more solid. It wouldn't speed it up any, but it would make it look smoother. So I'll see if he eventually gives that a shot, see what he thinks of that technique. But still, I mean, just even trying to get a scrolling mountain on a basic program, I was pretty impressed with his chutzpah on that one. Next up, we have Roel van de Par, another Australian, put up a short video to answer a question. And this is from a 17-year-old that wrote into a show. And I guess he kind of does technical question and answer style things, which is why his channel is called Roel's Technical Help. What the guy had asked, the 17-year-old had asked, is he would like to make a new programming language. He wants to learn how to make an actual language, but he wants it to be inspired by Color Basic. So there's not really any audio in this. It's more text stuff. So I'll just kind of play it while we're talking about it. But basically, gives you a little bit of a shot of the outside here. Somewhere in Australia, Rick, or Nick, do you recognize this particular spot here? Because I know Australia is smaller than Canada, the US, so I'm assuming everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, it could be one of a million places in Australia, that one.
That was meant to be a joke because Americans always ask us Canadians if we know somebody in some, oh, you're Canadian. Do you know so-and-so from, New Brunswick? Forgetting that Canada is bigger than the US, so the chance of us knowing each other is even less. Plus, we're more sparsely populated.
Wasn't there a thing on YouTube, London to Moscow fits inside of Australia?
Anyway, you can see the question on the screen here. I'll just read it out for the audio listeners because obviously you can't see this. So the question was, for a time now, I've been wanting to make my own programming language. I'm 17 and the only language I know is Color Basic. I know that compared to today's complicated languages, it's pretty weak, but I was wondering if it would be hard to create a language that is kind of like Color Basic, and how would I start it? What to do, or what do I need to learn in order to make my own programming language? And the author of the site here actually gives 5 possible solutions. And they vary in complexity, etc. So best word here. So here it kind of does a description of what you need to know to design a language and getting into lexical analysis and parsing and figuring out keywords, etc. And kind of goes through the complicated parts of what you need to do. And then do you want to do it interpreted? Do you want to do compiled? Interpret is usually a bit easier to implement. That's implementing like where you basically, parse through the one line at a time type thing, run it directly from there, and then forget everything you just did and go on to the next one, which isn't the most optimized for speed. Compiled means you're actually compiling it to machine language, or as you mentioned, you can cross-compile to C first and then have that compiled to machine language, which is how OmniBasic does it that I actually use for work. So it kind of goes in the background of what you could do here, and then he starts mentioning there's some other ways you could possibly do it. You could try to write something like this in C or something, and then he mentions you can do other things. Let's find solution 2. Learn some other languages first, like C or possibly assembly, and then see whether you think you want to tackle doing your own basic language on top of it, or maybe just learn those instead. That was one other solution. Solution 3 goes through a book that does some stuff on C++ in this bigger case. Solution 4 is using Python, which is a bit more similar to BASIC than some of the other languages he's mentioned. So basically he's going through some different ways, not aside from the first solution, not really going for what the original question was, where he wanted to write a basic style language. This is doing some other things that you can get the same net effect, but it's not really writing your own compiler or your own interpreter. So, but I just thought it was interesting. A guy from Australia actually tackling something that's related to Color Basic. Next up after that, we mentioned this last week that James Host has been uploading scans of the Australian MC10 dedicated magazine called Myco. And he's finished. So he uploaded 3 more issues since we last talked. The May, June, and 1984, or May, June, and July 1984 issues. July 84 was the last issue of this magazine, and then it got folded back into, I think, Australian Rainbow or Australian Coco or something like that.
Yeah, one of those.
So basically, it quit being a separate one. But now I think he's pretty well got the entire run in here. So if you guys have an MC10 and you want a lot of stuff to read on MC10, there's a magazine completely dedicated. These are all uploaded on the Facebook group. Hopefully he uploads them to the Color Computer Archive as well, though I haven't had a chance to check to see if they are there or not.
So is that 8 issues in total? By the looks of it?
6, I'm counting here. December 83 till July of 84.
3, 4, 5. I could
Because
see.
the MC10 Help is more of a little book that was sold. It's not an actual magazine.
Okay.
Isn't this awesome? We're hearing Nick learn how to count.
Yeah, what comes after 5?
You need an auto router to figure that out. Anyway, it's a nice bit of history because we never had an MC10, as I mentioned last week. We never had an MC10 dedicated magazine in North America that I'm aware of at all. It was always just part of Rainbow or part of Color Computer Magazine or part of Hot Cocoa or whatever. So having a dedicated one in Australia of all places is kind of cool. And they weren't small. I mean, they were 60, 70 pages. I mean, they were a decent size. Next after that, Joel Reese published that he's actually gotten his assembler to produce C10 files, which XWork can then read when emulating the MC10. So I guess his previous version of assembler, because he's had this out for a while, and it does 6800, 6801, 6803. It wouldn't create a file ready to go in an emulator, and now it does. So that's the big difference here. And it's actually got his link to it directly to his sourceforge.net, which if you read the show notes in Discord, you'll be able to get that, and I'll also just show what it looks like there. He said one of the things he mentions here is, how is this different from any other assemblers? It's closer to the Motorola syntax than many of the options, and that's about it for now. Anyway, it assembles a source I have for Fig4 and BTL2. And he got some help from Sina Jonason here of actually being able to handle stuff like polecat and input character, output character using the ROM routines or duplicating the ROM routines here. So that was something he had a little bit of trouble getting going at the beginning. That's all in there now too. And if this is his GitHub project right here. We mentioned 6800, 6801, which 603 is basically just a microcontroller version with a timer and stuff added to it. And then he's got some screenshots here. They probably don't show up super well here on the stream, but this is invoking the assembler to Unix shell. And the next one, looking at the output and object file output, giving you like the opcodes and what the actual bytes to memory are being when you're going through the different instructions, etc. So if you want to do some MC10 assembler development, that's another new tool to use for that. And it will actually make the C10 files ready to go in XWork. And finally, this is the Dragon 32 story. So this is actually a Spanish show, and it's a big one. I was kind of surprised. 234,000 subscribers. So that's getting up there with, like, you know, some of the big podcasts and YouTube shows. And it's very loosey-goosey. It kind of reminds me of CoCoTALK a little bit, because they're just goofing around and joking and having fun. And they just kind of like ramble on for a good 5-10 minutes. Then they start talking about what they actually came to talk about. That really reminds me of CoCoTALK. So they basically are going through the Dragon 32, and some of the people here are not regulars on the show. There's Uncle Ben is what I gathered the one guy is, and it really is the uncle of one of the younger guys, because the younger guy in the middle, I think he was like 3 years old when the Dragon 32 came out. Now, their being in Spain means they're actually aware of the Eurohard purchasing of it. I was trying to watch the Google translated version, or the YouTube translation version of it, where I discovered there's a bit of a glitch in the way the YouTube thing works. If it's just speech in the background, it does a pretty good job. I mean, obviously you've got some, you know, syntactical differences between languages that are hard, or slang that's hard to translate. But in various parts of this video, they have some background music. It's really light. You can definitely hear the voices over it, but it seems to really confuse the auto translate, and it basically just gives up. And then you'll see like occasionally laughter or something like that. That's all you see. So there's whole chunks. I have no idea what they're saying. So any of our Spanish speaking listeners, whether you're from, you know, Central South America or from Spain, that know Spanish, I would love you guys to go through this video and kind of figure out exactly what they're all saying on the chunks that it can't translate. And what they do here is they talk about a little bit about the history of it. kind of hold it up, show you all the ports and stuff like that. And then they actually plug it into a TV, and then they load in a couple of basic games, three to be specific. So the first one they loaded up is a Battleship clone in basic, and then they play that a little bit. And then they have a golf game, which actually is a combination of text entering your clubs and stuff. And then you have a little P Mode 3 graphics representation of it. And then they do a little bit of, I think it's James Garand's Go Fish game from the Tandy 6-pack of card games. But you can tell that they're obviously having a good time, goofing around type thing. They're sitting there waiting for the stuff to load and waiting in the background. So the cameraman, once it's finished loading, goes behind them to show the screen. But they're joking about how long it takes for cassettes to load and how younger people today don't even know what a cassette is. And it's a very fun sounding show. It sounds like what we try to do here. So that was pretty good. Here comes the ads. Thank you, YouTube jerks. For some reason, my ad blocker got broke again. I'll have to see if there's another update, but every time I do it, it seems to break faster. So there's a little bit of the Battleship game in action. Let's fast forward a little bit here. This is a golf game, which I've not seen this particular one here. You can see the translation it's trying to do. Here comes another freaking ad because YouTube sucks. Blah, blah, blah. So the golf game is a mixture of text and graphics. It does the text for your club selection. So there's a few of the Coco ones I've seen that are similar to that, and then it does the graphical representation, and then it shows you trying to fire up. Unfortunately, with a lot of modern phone cameras and a lot of modern digital cameras, you get this herringbone pattern when you're viewing the old CRT screens. It doesn't look that bad in real life. And then, like I said, they get into the other one too. Now, it sounds like they were soliciting. Now, this is where part of it got lost in the translation because of the little musical bits they do in the background here. But it sounds like they were kind of soliciting either to get some of the people guesting here that were not regulars on the show to guest and kind of vote in the comments if you want these people to guest appear. But I also think they were also possibly asking if you want to see more on the Dragon, because they didn't really cover machine language yet. They threw a little bit of a video at the very end on the side, kind of showing some basically video clips of other games like Airball and a few others here. I don't know if I can find it here. I mean, they threw a couple 2-second clips of basically of a couple other machine language games. I would like to see them cover those, because my gathering from what was translated is that they weren't super impressed. They did mention that it was basically meant to be more of a programmer's computer rather than a game playing computer. And it sounds like their channel is probably more about the games type thing, but they definitely could pick better the games than just 3 basic ones. So anyway, any Spanish listeners out there, if you guys can go through it and then kind of fire off to me either in Discord or by email or whatever, what was your general opinion, what they were talking about and the show in general. And then if they do want some suggestions of maybe some other games to try on the Dragon, I would love if some of you guys could chip in and give them some decent ones that would show off the Dragon as opposed to just basic games. So it's a good little half-hour show. Like I said, it's a pretty popular channel with 234,000 subscribers. So definitely worthwhile if you speak Spanish. And that's it for the news today. Time to wake up, Mark.
Somebody wake the engineer.
Got to wake up the audience first.
Usually it's Nick we have to wake up here.
Oh,
so.
sorry. Got distracted.
Wake up the audience first.
Where are we at?
Oh, the
News
show's
is finished.
over. Yeah, waiting for you to turn the power off.
Oh, need to run the outro?
Well, I think, Rick, you were going to do some update that Nick was mentioning, some project.
I want to hear about that. I'll wake up now.
And first of all, before we get Rick into that, does anybody else have any project updates or acquisitions they want to talk about? Besides Rick? Because if not, I think that'll probably be the last part of the show. Going once, going twice. Rick, you have the floor.
Well, not really much here. I just pulled this up because KeyCAD came up. I drew out a 4-channel Orchestra 90, and I got to looking at it. And the deal is there's 2 parts to the software. There's the part where you do the scoring and it reads your score back. And then there's the section that actually makes the waveform that you hear. That's all done in software. So we're all good through the score part because we can run at double speed, and now we can handle 4 channels in the time it took to handle 2 channels. But you need a 4-channel wave generator now. So who wants to write that, Nick?
Well, obviously, I mean, if it was me building it, I wouldn't worry about the ROM chip at all. I mean, the software that's in there is not very good anyway.
The software that's in there makes the sound. Half of it does.
Well, it's in software, so you could write your own software and load it from disk or whatever.
Okay, well, so there's room in a ROM to throw the wavetables, if you will. So if you could throw 4 wavetables in there and then trip them off any way you want to, then
yeah. How many wavetables? I was thinking of using RAM to load different samples and wavetables in. So you're not restricted to just what's in the ROMs. That's why I say I'm not interested in the ROM.
Yeah, because the ROM is basically just a music player, and you can use the Organic because it's a raw DAC for like digitized sound effects and a bunch of things that the software doesn't cover at all.
You can use the real estate for something else.
Yeah.
Well, real-time clock.
Make the cartridge shorter.
Right. Make it a floppy size instead of a.
Yeah, I have to agree with Nick because most of the time I use the Orc90 now as like my play command and stuff, which has nothing to do with the software on there at all. It doesn't use any of their files, nothing. So do you need the ROM at all, or would you write just software to duplicate the ROM if that's what you want to do?
Well, the ROM does 2 things. It is the Orchestra 90 software part where you're.
Yeah, it's a 4-voice music compiler basically.
But it has the 2 tone generators, the stereo tone generator in that ROM, so you have to replace that.
Yeah, you write better ones of your own. Yeah.
Well, right. I'm just so okay.
By the way, Rick, that sounds like Nick's volunteering to do that, so you don't have to worry about it.
I'll make some hardware and send it off, and then you'll have to go order some from the place in China, so you don't have to do get it from China to the United States to Australia thing.
Because I will mention Nick does have a private copy. I have a copy because I tried it of Gunstar that actually uses stereo sound effects. Digitized sound effects or pan the left and right speakers.
Yeah, but that's still only just a 2-channel, so you wouldn't need the 4-channel one.
But once again, you're not using the ROMs for any of that. Like you're just talking directly to DACs.
That. And you'll notice like Sockmaster has the mod player which supports Orchestra 90, and he doesn't use the ROM either.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we've also got the little switch here. So here's your stereo quad switch and a summing amp here, so we can mix it down to 2 and then throw it to 1 back to the sound pin into the Coco.
Or you could do Dolby surround sound with this, couldn't you?
You've got a 4, 4, 2, 1. So
well, I probably wouldn't have a use for having actual 4 outputs all at once. I'd probably combine 2 the channels to the left and 2 to the right. So it's still a standard stereo output.
Yeah, that's available.
You have 4 channels.
Well, I think what Rick's saying there, Nick, is that you could have the option of actually where you can mix them down to 2 channels so that you have 2 sets of DACs to each. Or if you did the 4, like if you left the 4 ports on, you have some software to control whether it's mixing or not. You could do a surround sound where you have stereo, left, right, front, back speakers. You can actually have, cars you're driving in color car action zip by you from the front to the back to your left.
You hear the Dungeons and Dragons guy behind you.
And to the left or right or forward. Yeah. Like you could do all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, that'll be a case
or mix it down to stereo. Like if you just need the stereo, you can do that too with extra voices on there. Yeah.
That's kind of my thinking. If you can cut it out, put it in, you can always turn it off.
Yeah. I would cut the ROM out and put in the auto mix on or off under soft control myself.
Yeah, you can cut the ROM out and shrink the cartridge a bit as well. It doesn't need to be the
real-time clock.
I could put a latch.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
And let you play with the mix yourself. Yeah, there's a lot of cool.
Actually, better yet, a real-time clock that has a reprogrammable timer interrupt on it, and some onboard RAM, so you can actually tell the card, you go handle the sound while the Coco's busy doing other stuff.
Well, that'd be good, but then that makes the hardware more expensive too. So
but we got rid of the ROM, so we're saving some there, right? So we got the same.
Yeah, but adding RAM and all that RAM and other RAM.
Oh, RAM's cheap now. I mean, you can get an SD card and throw it in or something.
Well, now here we go. We'll throw one of the.
I'm just feature creeping the crap out of this for fun. You realize, of course.
We'll throw one of the network chips on there, and then you've got the 16K RAM that's in the network chip that you can store your sound on and share it with all your friends.
Yeah, and have the interrupt timer. Just actually pull the samples off and send them out to the port without the Coco getting involved at all. We'll finally have a real sound card.
No, I think this is cool.
In quadraphonic yet.
I'm going to make one of these just because prototypes are cheap.
See, Nick, it's not expensive. He just said it's not expensive.
Build it and they will come.
Right.
And you can patch Gunstar to use the advanced features like you did for the York 90 as it is.
Oh, I've got other ideas of things I want to do, but I don't know if it's more just a personal project I want to do at this stage. So I wouldn't put too much effort into it.
Well, no, but I mean, the effort was drawn it, which is fun. And then, if they spend a couple bucks to make 3 of them, who cares?
Yeah, and if it does get enough traction that you can do some cool stuff with it, then you might start using it. Then other people can start using it too. So,
well, if you make it shorter to fit into a normal game cartridge case, that would lower. Yeah, I know it does. I know Jim Brain has a
game case would be solid surface mount. Then it would fit. But it would also cost more because you would need surface mount of all these obsolete kind of things where through hole is still around. So, I mean, it would fit in a.
Now, if you went with stereo 1/8-inch jacks as opposed to 2 separate RCA jacks for left and right for each of the 2 pairs.
It's getting all those DACs in the thing. I mean, you need 4 latches, you need 8 resistor ladders, and all those in through hole are available cheaply. But all those in SMT are not.
All right.
And everything's 1%. So, you can't just throw random parts in. You got to do some care. But anyway, a shorty floppy controller fits easily. And let's see what happens. I was talking about how I like to route things. Maybe I can cram all this stuff in a ROM pack.
Yeah. Well, all I want is a 4-channel DAC. So
is there any chips that actually has multiple DACs in one chip, Rick, that would make this a lot easier?
Well, what this is latches. So there are 4 8-bit latches, and the software
really
writes high or low. And when it writes high, it stays high until it writes low again. And because we're running at double speed, anything the Orchestra 90 could do, we can do by 4. Because it could do it in stereo. We got twice the speed. So it would be interesting because it would be exactly any hack you did for the Orc 90 would work on this card.
Yeah, you have the backwards compatibility of like the play command, for example, that everybody has Orc 90 support.
So it wouldn't just be another weird sound card that no one's ever seen before. Interesting.
That seems to be our motto in the Coco world. So yeah.
Right. Anyway, it's fun. I got to have something to do until my next serious project gets done.
I was actually going to ask how's the network card, because I haven't actually had a chance to really check the Discord lately to see if you got it down to 100% now that you kind of know what to fix with the oddball Cocos yet, or
will that February 23 release date or ship date for the high speed PALs, that is to get around the Protector 3 problem. I need a little more switching speed. If you've got a Protector 3 plugged in, that already slows the bus down a little bit, and then I slow down a little bit too much more. So
okay, so you haven't figured out what the cause of the problem is.
I know what the issue is. I just can't get a part to fix it right now. So if you have a Protector 3, I'm not the man for you. But beyond that, I'm working with other fun things. Like there's a direct version where there's 16 or 32K of RAM that's directly addressable from the Coco. Now cram that into OS 9. I don't know how. I did see
a quick question too, like the Protector, that's Cloud9's CPU thing to protect the CPU from blowing up. Does it have you tried it with the Boys and Tech equivalent, which for some reason I'm blanking the name of it?
Guardian, and it works fine.
Oh, okay.
So there's just a little bit too much of a
timing thing.
Just a little bit wrong there. And I can save 3 milliseconds with this other chip if they still made it or get to making it again. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, chip shortage.
In the meantime, like I say, I'm playing with this direct access version where you can have 32K of the network maintains this 32K for me, and I just have to read it, which could be fun for games and stuff. Your shared Dagareth idea. And then I'm working on the boot ROM idea. So, these are all months and months and months down. But the one we have now works okay if you have a multi-pack or a mini multi-pack. And eventually we want to get to, you just cram this thing in the side of your Coco and it boots off the network and have a nice day.
Okay, so I really have to get the next Nitrous 9 because it's got some of those graphical features and stuff that you want to actually use for some of your software to support this.
Well, that would be really cool because the software drives the hardware, and until the software is, I'm still advertising no software, although that's changing rapidly. So I suppose I should change the website to mention, no software except for DHCP and Ping and NTP and
yeah, you got some basic utilities out there already. So
there's things happening. So yeah, this will be cool.
I was going to ask you, Rick, did you were talking about maybe hooking up with Bill, who's much more familiar with networking stacks and stuff than I am, about try to get him involved at some point. Did you manage to get a hold of him? Or?
I sent him a Discord. He hasn't replied yet, but I sent a whole wad of stuff, so I wouldn't expect him to.
Okay, so I'll have to bug him because he was on the show last week. So
yeah, that's what got me thinking about this whole, the D series. I could dump all this RAM someplace. If I only had a place to dump it, in level 3 would be a pretty good place to
yeah, I know he's still getting it working because there's some core changes to how some certain things work, and you have to do stuff between IO man, the clock, and the kernel and stuff here to get it all to work. So that's to know when it's switching memory maps, sub memory maps, I should call them. And plus, we wanted to try to go through and optimize it a little bit too, because I think there might be some opportunities to speed up some of that code from back the original version that Alan did.
Cool, because my issue is this is all on the bus. There ain't no memory management yet, so it's laying somewhere in a big lump to be digested. And
yeah, I think honestly, because you have such large packets you're dealing with there, plus some onboard RAM and stuff like you're mentioning, I think it would be better to write a third file manager specifically for that.
Exactly.
And then basically have it as a third option for level 3. So you have 16K for SCF and all of its drivers and devices. One for RBF and all of its drivers devices, but I would make a separate NFM or whatever the hell you want to call it specifically for this card so that it gets its own. Because if you're reading or writing to this, you're not reading or writing to disk simultaneously. You don't have to have that other thing mapped in at the same time, which is the whole reason for level 3 working in the first place, is that if you're writing to an SCF device, you're not going to be talking to RBF. That's totally different. You wait for another interrupt and then you switch tasks to do that, in which case it maps that in. So they're mutually exclusive.
So we wander all over the map in the network world too, because you've got, SCF kind of stuff like the utilities we're using now. That's all pretty much serial stuff.
Yeah.
But then NFS,
Yeah. That's the biggest problem. We have the DriveWire stuff because DriveWire broke that model. That's why level 3 does not work with DriveWire, because DriveWire has got RBF parts and SCF parts, and it's all in one driver. You'd have to completely rewrite the whole way that thing works to get it to run with level 3.
Yes.
And in addition to space for the data, now you need space for another manager. So yeah, we really need level 3 to come along. I don't know.
Yeah, because the file manager itself would take some extra system RAM, and then you'd be able to split the drivers and stuff apart, so it's not taking extra for that. But yeah, but that's a pretty substantial project. But I think it's probably the best way to approach it long term.
Okay.
So anyway, our thing right now is to get some applications going and get this thing useful to people to actually want to play with it, and they will write more things for it. We can.
Well, if work dies down, hopefully soon, so I can get back to Nitrous 9. I do have to finish, trying to find that last bug Jim Gary found. Then I have to finish transferring all the software to all the different images, because there's a GIME X6809, GIME X609, regular 6809, regular 609, documentation, a bunch of things I have to do. Test it all, make sure I didn't break anything. Then I'm hoping, because it's Septandy anyway, if I'm really lucky, I'm hoping to out by the end of September, I'm hoping to have the next Nitrous 9 EOU release out, which will include some of the driver changes you need for the GUI stuff you're doing. For Basic 9.
And meanwhile,
which reminds me, I have to bug James Jones because he was going to give us some reports back on some of the floating point math routines to make sure I didn't bugger any of that stuff up there, and I haven't heard back from it. He was running some test code to kind of handle through that, because math in my head don't get along. So I was going to get him to do it. Like I know you tested, like you were testing the mouse click and keyboard hits to get out of a menu type thing. Like that was something you tested for me and actually found, yeah, there's a bit of a glitch here. You can't get out of it with a mouse click, only with a key, or sorry, the other way around, wasn't it? You can get out with a mouse click, but not a key hit or something to get out of a menu. What was that I patched? I can't remember anymore.
Oh, who was that? Oh, me?
Yeah. Yeah, it was for Basic 9.
The hotkeys only worked if the menu was already open, which kind of defeated the purpose of having hotkeys.
Right. Yeah.
You want the hotkey to work if the menu is available. It doesn't need to be open. So yeah, your patch fixed that. And so now once you know the magic keystroke, you don't need to open the menu. You can just
Alt, whatever you pick.
Mouse open the menu and learn, okay, B is bold. You don't need to just know that, which is something I really feel strongly about and will harp on any chance I get. Discoverable UI.
Well, considering that's modernly still used in Linux and OS 10 and Windows, they all have, the hotkeys to do your common menu functions. So yeah, I definitely want that in.
Unlike Apple, where you just need to know you need to do Control Apple / F4 to do a print screen or whatever.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's good to hear you finally actually figured out the exact problem with the why it was not working on certain hardware, because that was, I know, driving you nuts for months.
I'm getting really good at finding hardware timing issues. I got all kinds of new tools, and my bench is laid out for it now.
Maybe you just need to use an auto router; it'll fix it all for you.
Right? Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I got, and if that's all you've got for updates there, Rick. I don't believe anybody else has any updates, so I think we're done for the day. I will mention once again, just as a reminder, well, 2 reminders. One, the Amigos are doing their live show recordings for their monthly shows tomorrow, not today like they normally would, including the Coco show where they're reviewing Shock Trooper. I still have to get a review in, but I haven't had time. I'm hoping I can get that done today before the show actually happens. Ken, I think you actually submitted yours already, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And then also Dave Dye's interviews next week with Glenn as hopefully as a guest interviewer. And I rattled off a whole whackload of the games that he did, or sold through Dicom, or his earliest ones he sold through Tom Mix and Siguero. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, software. So there's a ton of stuff to ask questions about there. He's going to be going through a lot of the the industry stuff he's done in mobile since then, plus all the Coco stuff and the bit of a controversy with Rainbow, etc. So it'll be a very interesting talk at the very least. So get your questions ready for, if you can't make the show and you have some questions you want us to ask Dave, send them up through the Discord or send them via email.
Okay. Let me run a couple of promos and then the outro.
Yep.
Okay, let's hear from Dave one more time.
Hi, this is Dave Dyes. I'll be appearing on CoCoTALK on September 3rd at 1 p.m. I'll be talking about everything I've done in my Coco days, as well as a bunch of projects that I've worked on since then. And if we're lucky, Glen Dahlgren will show up and give some of the stories that we had from our days working together.
You were walking through the woods when you suddenly fell into a dark cavern filled with venomous snakes, absorbing blobs, and mechanical monsters. These automatons aren't just pesky, they are a robot nightmare.
Robot Nightmare.
A new game for the Tandy Color Computer 1, 2, and 3. Robot Nightmare.
Robot Nightmare.
Semi-competent, semi-graphics. 100% machine language. Really. Still digital to analog converted sound. What are they saying about Robot Nightmare?
Robot Nightmare.
Steve B. York says, I hope this is just a nightmare. Elkert S. Boyle says, nope, not on my site either. Nick Marionette says, crikey, look at the size of that croc. Get your copy of Robot Nightmare.
Robot Nightmare.
Physical or digital at kenscococorner.itch.io.
This concludes another episode of CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer, MC10, and Dragon systems. For all things CoCoTALK, visit us on the web at cocotalk.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to CoCoTalk at CoCoTalk.live. Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, click on the Patreon link on our website, CoCoTalk.live. CoCoTalk would not exist without the community, its cast, crew, and contributors. Thanks go to Alan Murphy, Amigos Retro Gaming, Bill Noble, Brian Joyce, Brian Weaver, Curtis Boyle, D. Bruce Moore, Danny O'Connor, David Ladd, Eric Canales, George Jansen, Grant Leedy, James Diffendapper, Jason Reichard, Jim Brain, Ken Reichard, Ken Waters, Mark Bosley, Mark Overholzer, Mikey Furman, Mr. Dave 6309, Nick Marentes, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Paul Fiscarelli, Richard Lorbieski, Rick Adams, Rick Hewlin, Rob Inman, Ron Delvaux, Samuel Gimes, Sloopy Malibu, Steve Bjork, Terry Steggy, Tom C., and many, many more. Please help support the CoCo community. A list of various contributors and resources are available at imacoconut.com. That's IMACOCONUT.com. The original Coco Talk theme song is copyright 2008 by D. Bruce Moore and Greg Sheeler. The new Coco Talk theme song is copyright 2020 by D. Bruce Moore. Both are mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. Coco forever!
Okay. Oh, that's what I wanted. Any last thoughts?
No, just looking forward to the interview next week. That's the main one for me. Dave's somebody who I've been trying to get on for a while since I first contacted him by email back in the early 2000s, and then he kind of disappeared, so it was really hard to find him. And a big thanks to Henry Reichfeld, who actually got me in contact with him again after all these years, because without Henry's help, I would not have been able to set that interview up.
Well, and I probably won't be on next week, but I look forward to seeing everyone who can make it to VCF Midwest in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, baby.
Oh,
maybe
Dave,
not anymore now that you heard David.
bring Diet Dr. Pepper.
You're scaring them off, David.
Very unlikely.
Yes,
very
David's
unlikely.
going. Yeah.
Yep. Probably camping in the car though, but I'm going.
All right. Well,
there you go.
Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
See you all next week.
Bye,
Bye, everyone.